Hey y'all, can y'all hear me? If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up because my volume's way down. Hey Carl, can you hear me? Okay, okay. I'm gonna invite you to speaker, Carl. Let me see how you sound because I can barely hear anything. Uh, yeah, today we're gonna talk about the Africans who participated in the slave trade. Hey Carl, how you doing? What'd you say, bro? I couldn't hear you. Nah, something's wrong with my I don't know if they're trying to play with my space today. We've been too successful, you know what I'm saying? My volume's way down. Um,
Yeah, you're coming in very clear. So can you hear me?
I hear you now perfectly, perfectly. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Looking at the topic, I'm very interested in uh, the answers.
Yeah, share out the space. Wani, um, our sister Wani has done a lot of scholarship on this, and she actually taught me something while we were planning for this space. Um, what we're gonna learn today is not only did Africans sell slaves, some of the African slave traders moved to the United States and lived a happy life. They don't tell you that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Yeah, yeah, I would think that the kidnapped slave would be a lower percentage than the actual sold slaves.
Yeah. So I went to Ghana, Carl, and we spent some time there building a school in Hohoi, North Ghana, and building a library in Apostle, which is kind of northeast Ghana. And when we were in Hohoi, we met a group of just beautiful people called the Tree People. They did a prayer for us, thanking God that we came back. But long story short, um, I realized that a lot of us were kidnapped from those little neighborhoods we visited. So in Africa, in West Africa rather, there are people who are not complicit with the slave trade. Um, hold on, but I did meet a very very wealthy people with mansions, and it just kind of dawned on me like, where did this family money come from? You know, but we're gonna get all up in that today. Yeah, Wani, I was just bragging on you. I do scholarship for a living, and I had no clue about the lady you just sent me. And
Linda.
yeah, and then she lived in Savannah, Georgia. That's ridiculous.
Oh, I know. So when they say that we own slaves, like, what are you talking about? How do we know these people were not from Africa, like her?
Right, right. Totally complicit. And then we're supposed to be one big Negro. No, 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 no. Wanted that further strengthened my resolve with respect to delineation. And we're supposed to join forces with these people who actually sold us. All right, guys, please share out the space. We're going to get started in a moment. Um, if you want to comment on the topic, go ahead and you can raise your hand and I'll send you the speaker. Wani, could you speak for a moment? I've been having issues with sound today.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. So, one of the things that I learned while doing this is the complete difference in the way that we view things and the way that Africans view things. And that's really our main culture clash and our stumbling block is that when I see a person of African descent, I view them as part of my group. And that's how I used to view it up until 2019. But when they see someone of African descent, they really focus on the tribe. They don't look at the phenotypes and all this type, unless it's like someone obviously phenotypically different, but they're going by the tribe and they know them because they've been over there the whole time. So it's not confusing to them. They don't view them as themselves. So from the outside looking in, you're looking like, why are these people doing this to themselves? Like it doesn't make any sense. Why would Sudanese people be killing Sudanese people? Why would Congolese people be butchering Congolese people to this degree? But for them, they have these different tribes. And then, of course, the European goes over there and inflames, takes advantage of the fact that they'll kill each other at the drop of a hat and they arm different sides depending on what they want them to, who they want to win. So they've been able to take advantage of this thing. For us, we don't think that way. We're looking like everyone brown is on this team and everyone white is on that team. That is not how they look at things. um they just don't. And even white people outside of America, if you say everybody's white, they're looking at you like, no, I'm Greek, what are you talking about? I'm Mediterranean, what the hell? They don't know what I'm talking about. If I say they're white, a person from the UK and a person from Greece are going to look at me like I'm out of my mind if I view them the same. But over here, they agree to, loosely do it, even though they're thinking thoughts against each other. They know Italians and Greek people are not Anglos, so they're thinking thoughts, but they've agreed to not tell us about it or put that out there like that. Anyway, um, this is why Queen Nzinga can say, don't hurt my people, but I'm willing to sell these people over here and have a very fruitful slave selling organization. This is why Fenda Lawrence can come from West Africa, change her name and live over here and sell people into bondage and run a whole slave trade from here when she's actually from West Africa. This is why um, these women have the ability to do that and drown them if they don't get enough money, harm these slaves if they don't get enough money. They don't view them as number one. We need to get into two things. The first thing, they don't view them as themselves, and they don't have the same feeling about people that we do. In other words, um, they don't have the same sense of humanity, like the same feeling that people deserve to have liberty. They just like, I'll just grab up 40,000 children and shove them in a cobalt mine. They don't have rights. They don't have liberties. They don't feel that these people have liberties. This is our belief system that my body is mine, you can't take it. We're the ones coming up these terms kidnapping. Everyone else is perfectly fine with kidnapping. The Ottoman Empire was the harem was filled with kidnapped women. But in that context, it was okay. It's like, oh, the king is gonna come hang out with you at some point and you can't ever see your family again. And that was supposed to be acceptable. They don't have this thing called liberty. And they don't have it in Africa. So they can take your life away. They can do whatever they want and they don't feel it's a big deal. And they also don't feel that these other tribes are family. Go ahead, Carl.
I had a question for you. First of all, what is your name?
Wani.
Wani? Did I
Mm-hmm.
say, did I? Okay, Wani. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate the scholarship that you bring. Can we narrate it more so to what country or the tribe that was doing the selling instead of just saying the whole word Africans?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
You
great.
can. So, um, they had the slave coast. So these people were up and down the slave coast. You had the Kingdom of Congo. So they were doing it from there. We're not just talking about with us now when we start talking about Tipu Tip. When they say this Arab slave trader, we need to put up a picture of Tipu Tip. This is the Arab slave trader. Um, he doesn't look like an Arab at all. He looks like he's of African descent. He was a big time slave trader. Mansa Musa, who we are told to look up to, that's also off putting to tell us to put people on a pedestal who harmed our people because we have low self-esteem from a pan-African mindset. It means that we have to remember, like I said in the other room, we have to tuck ourselves under Africa and make West Africa the king, and we tuck ourselves in. We're not tucking in under that. Okay, there's nothing to tuck under. So that's why that was always an awkward fit because in order to do that, we have to submit, throw our history away and say, oh, everything's cool. We don't care what you did to us, or make up some excuse, some gymnastic mindset. Oh, well, everybody had slaves back then. They didn't do anything wrong. Everyone married 9-year olds. That's okay. That's the kind of thing that they do. And you see these people writing about relationships with 3-year-old children. And it's like, wait a minute. How many excuses can people make for this?
Yeah, and to add on, brother Carl, um, the kingdom of Benin um, had a very ruthlessly efficient slave trade. Benin is next to um, Nigeria, and to this day, the people of West Africa are scared half to death of Benin people. The Benin people would do things like sacrifice. The Europeans were scared of them. They would meet with the French and the Portuguese, and they would bring out a dude, just like bring out one random guy, enslaved guy, and slice his head off and lick the knife. You know what I'm saying? Um, so Benin has a big foothold in the slave trade. Senegambia, but it's important to note that these countries, for the most part, did not exist back then, which is a big part of the problem when we do DNA tests. I mean, we do our genealogy, and it says you're from Ghana, because these places didn't exist. A lot of the kingdoms that sold us have been kind of busted apart by Europe and turned into a nation state. But the general area would be Benin. I think the Benin Kingdom was still there, the Kingdom of Benin.
Hmm. Yeah, they were very ruthless in terms of besides collecting people that they didn't like, their enemies, they also would attack their family members that they didn't like. And they were known for putting their own family members in there just because they wanted their land or something like this. I should read this quote, but I'm going to summarize before I get the quote. But basically, this white male that was trying to buy some slaves, he said that he got scared to say no because when you're in a dungeon for maybe weeks or months, you come out of there when the slave ship comes, you might not look that good. You may look sickly, you may look like they don't want to buy you. So when these people would come out to be put on the ship, the European slave buyer might say, well, yeah, this person doesn't look so hot. And then the the African would just cut their head off right there in front of them. So this guy said, I'm scared to turn to say, I don't want any of these. I have to take them even if they're sickly because I don't feel like having their head lopped off at my feet. So this just goes to show you the just callous lack of humanity and the disregard for anything. I mean, I don't understand the type of mindset that is, but it's alive today.
Yes, and we're dealing with it. I have scholarship that I'm gonna summarize as well, and the part of the scholarship along your lines, Wani, is if males from age 15 to 25 initially got the highest premium. So the slave traders, if they had somebody a little older, they would pluck the gray hair out their head before they sold them. Um, in addition, I read, and I'll find the quote in a moment, but I read that if a man got angry with his wife, he would sell her into the slave trade. What type of behavior is that? What type of what we it is my wish and dream for foundational Black Americans to just stop being so naive, you know. And I've been caught up in the naivete as well, but thinking that everybody's our friend has been our biggest downfall, one of our biggest downfalls.
I agree. And it's based on the fact that we embraced all brown people, including East Indians. Of course, we're having all these issues with Kamala, but we have embraced those people. We made illogical connections. We said that Dravidian people were from Egypt. And therefore, if Dravidian people are Indian people and they're from Egypt, then they're black. So we can include them in, but the links to Egypt are not very clear cut. Of course, you can make a case if you use the out of Africa theory that everybody has some African descent, but that's not what the Afrocentric people were talking about. They tried to make elite, like illogical jumps to say that people that were Indian were us. And they also did the same thing with the Negritos, which are the like small statured people living in some of these islands in the South Pacific and in Asian countries like the
The
Philippines.
Philippines.
Yeah. And those people are not, they're not related to us genetically, other than they, like other brown people, supposedly came from Africa. So they tried to do that. I saw an article where they were talking about Negritos and celebrating their background in the Philippines. And some Pan Africanists came in there and said, "Yeah, they're black and blah 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 blah," and they got ripped in the comment section. And that was just that was just a random article, and that person got ripped. Like, can these people have their heritage in peace? They have a heritage, and it doesn't have anything to do with Africa. They're an individual group of people that's been living up in the mountains for a long, long time, and they don't retain any of what you're talking about. They're not African. Anyway, um, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was pretty much finished. We took everyone in, and we don't understand people that look alike, not uh, caring for each other when we're all under the yoke of white supremacy. Okay, we don't get it. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? We don't understand that. If everyone brown is under attack, why on earth would we want to divide? But they just can't help but dividing. I mean, they're tribes. They created division by being tribes. They can't think like that, and we just keep um, slowing ourselves down, tricking ourselves, expecting them to be our brothers and sisters when they really just don't have the capability to do that, unfortunately.
I think,
Yeah, it's culturally. Oh, go
yeah, I
ahead,
think
bro.
some of the problem is also in America, we have been beaten down that we're all Americans also. but in the last 5 to 10 years, we have been delineating more so to our own people group instead of saying, yes, I'm American. Yes, that's a fact. But also, I am a Black American, or I am ADOS, or I am FBA, or I am, which my birth certificate says, a Negro. So I think the delineation has been much more stronger in the last 5 to 10 years, that it's okay to be a part of a tribe. It's okay to be part of a people group and voicing uh, your advocacy for that people group while we are yet being Americans. And I say e pluribus unum means out of the many, one. So out of the many, many what? Many tribes, many people groups. We share an idea. America is based upon an idea that we share, but we all are from different people groups, and it's okay for us Black Americans to be okay with who we are as a people group. But I appreciate you, Wani, for bringing the scholarship that we were sold into slavery from a empire in Africa. We have been disconnected from that people group over there, that people group that saw harm for us, so they made a profit off of us and sold us into slavery. And so, why do we have an admiration for that people group who sold us, that we feel like we have to seek something from that people group instead of looking at our heritage that we have here in America, the great things our ancestors have done, the great things our people have done, even under the struggles that we have faced: slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, black codes, redlining. Our people group have withstood all those things, and we are still outshining many of our the people over in Africa. And that's where the envy comes in, because we have been successful even under these trials. I land there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You summed it up better than I could. That sums it up. The scholarship that I brought up earlier is from a book written by a husband and wife, PhD, Dorothy and Carl Snyder, called Slavery in America. Very detailed book. But Dr. Snyder says the slaves are bought by black traders at fairs. So listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. In Western Africa, they just like we have a fair to like let kids, get on the Ferris wheel, eat popcorn, and shoot fake guns. In West Africa, they would have a whole fucking fair with food and all, just to sell other black people. Um, the fairs were held for that purpose at the distance upward for 200 miles from the sea coast. And these fairs are said to have been supplied from the interior part of the country. So that's where I went when I was hanging with the tree people, the very sweet, kind people who did vaguely remind me of foundational Black Americans in West Africa. I'm talking about people in the jungle that I was blessed enough to hang out with. They were very innocent, and they're the ones who prayed for us, thanking God that we returned home. So a lot of us who do have African lineage were stolen from those little villages. Like they would march in those villages and steal kids and steal babies out of huts and stuff. Um, Dr. Snyder also posits, quote, free Africans as a group by no means objected to slavery. Sure didn't. Enslavement did not offend. Listen to what Dr. Snyder says. Enslavement did not offend their moral sense. That's what Wani was talking about earlier. As far as the record shows, though nobody wanted to be enslaved, only a few Africans protested against the slave trade. A good many Africans engaged in the commerce, especially the most powerful leaders. The shrewdest of their followers also profited in the flourishing of new economy. Um, yeah, I'm looking for And this last thing I wanted to say, it's just amazing. The trade not only commercial quote the trade not only commercialized the economy and changed the everyday life of Africans, but it also corrupted them. Allegedly, African kings sold wives with whom they were angry. You get mad at your wife, sell her into slavery. Fuck it. African parents, let me say that again, quote, African parents sold children who they could not feed, and desperate Africans sold themselves. Barbeau told of a son who defeated his royal father's efforts to sell him by first selling his father, only to be met on his return home by a fellow tribesman who took his profits and sold him. Um, what we're looking at, according to Dr. Snyder, in Africa, was a massive, what do you call it when people turn on themselves? Um, I don't know the word, Wani. It was a coup.
Um, Mutiny.
Mute, but you're turning on your family. Why did Africans get so divided like that? That's so strange.
There are definitely betrayers, that's for sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that is scholarship to support why it's my contention that we need to delineate and get with our own people. And I'm not demonizing everybody from the from Africa, but what I am saying is we don't share. Um, we seem to think we share similar values with groups of people that we don't really understand.
I agree. So, what I wanted to say is even if, just imagine if you were a Black Indian or whatever you want to call it, an Austronesian individual, and you were in the Americas minding your own business. The act of Africans selling people into slavery and having that activity going on here put their lives in danger immediately because they just look like property. They look like, oh my gosh, there's some other of those running around. We can scoop those up as well. They made everybody brown uh, valuable in terms of enslaving them, and they put those people in peril. Um, so, just to give you an idea, the Moors Sundry Act of 1791, some Moorish people, now white people always like to say Moors are white, which is ridiculous because they literally have a description of some of these Moors, and they were described as being extremely dark. Everything was black except their teeth, and they were described as handsome. So that's interesting how white people continue to describe these very dark men as handsome. So anyway, they came over here to live and they had to go to court to make sure that they were not mistaken for black people. They had to get paperwork because they wanted to live here, but they did not want to be perceived as slaves or as someone that could be caught up in the slave trade. So they said, we're, citizens of Morocco. Moore's Sundry Act of 1790 protected them from being enslaved. So that just goes to show you anybody brown over here, watch out. Subject to be scooped up and sold into slavery.
Yeah, and that was a foolish part of it all. That's the idiotic part, is how could they not have the massive forethought to understand that if you reduce somebody who looks like you to servitude and brag about it, and that the opposing forces would say, well, shit, they don't care about each other. Why shouldn't I care about them? To me, that's like kind of common sense.
Yeah, to have your own, from the European perspective, to have your own people do that, it causes them to have no respect for us, and it's not our own people. That's just because they're brown, that's not their own people to them. And you know what I'm saying? It wasn't really their own people to Europeans. Their neighbors were not their own people. They were doing all kind of wars between each other. But it does make us look um crazy that people are willing to do that. Go ahead, Carl.
Oh, I was thinking about a similar thing that happened in the 1960s when some African embassy group came over to the Americas to do some type of trade with American government, and they saw how the Negroes were being treated in America, and they made some concession with the government that no, you're not going to treat us the same way that you do the Negroes over here in America. So I was thinking about that same line of thinking uh, in a space that we talked about a couple of months ago, dealing with the Negroes in America.
Do you remember what that group is? Because I can add it to the list of incidences where foreign blacks were, like that happened with Kofi Annan, where he said, I'm not a nigger, so I can get a haircut here. And that happened with Muhammad Ali, where he tried to go get, this is after he won a gold medal, mind you. Um, he was told he couldn't get food at a restaurant while foreigners were in the restaurant. And this is a perfect example of it. We even stooped to wearing turbans so that we could be perceived as Indians. And we were doing a lot of things, faking Spanish accents so we could be perceived as dark Spanish people. So we did a lot of things to avoid the wrath of the United States of America. And so we'll just pause there.
Yeah, you're onto something, Wani. That I need to put a pin in that. I'm glad I'm recording this space because that was the problem with foundational Black Americans running. You just identified why because I grew up with um, in the '90s with um, black people, foundational Black Americans in school, just saying they everything but black. I got a Japanese grandmother. Somebody would brag on their Japanese grandmama. I mean, she's a dark sister too. She was cute, but what I'm saying, my grandmother's Japanese. Um, I'm Indian. I'm Choctaw, and all this is true. But it was you identified what it was about. It was trying to avoid that badge of dishonor, which is called slavery, which is why the hell we need our money. We need to be paid for that badge of dishonor. We still suffer that badge of dishonor. Let me give you some evidence for it. And let me be clear, I'm not being a hypocrite because I'm stuck in this shit too. Studies have shown that we consume the most name brand clothes in America of any other group, just collectively. I'm included in that. And I did a study years ago that posited that the reason why I bought some Dolce and Gabbana, shoes, some Gucci slippers. Why do we do that? You don't need that because rich people. If any of y'all ever hung around rich white people, as I did when I was in high school, they wear clothes from the thrift store. They have no need to dress up. In fact, what I noticed is very wealthy people. Um, Try to dress down because they don't want people to know what they got. I went to school with Michael. Michael Jordan moved to Birmingham, Alabama, and that's a space all in itself because he acted like he didn't give a damn about black people. I mean, I remember waiting in line to
He wasn't
get his
acting.
autograph. What'd
He
you say?
wasn't acting as a Chicagoan. He wasn't acting like he don't give a damn about black people. He don't give a damn about black people.
Man, he hurt my feelings so bad. He had that little Corvette, and we was at he played baseball in Birmingham at the Barron, and we were like trying to get an autograph. That fool rolled his eyes and peeled off on us, man. But back to my point. Uh, Rich, I went to. He was a little bit older than me, but Michael Jordan's the reason why I brought up Michael Jordan when he was in Birmingham. He had a doctor, like the best orthopedic doctor in the world at the time. His name was Dr. Andrews at University of Alabama, Birmingham. Well, I went to school adjacent to Dr. Andrews' son. I mean, billionaire. And his son had a raggedy ass Honda. Now his son had Ferraris and shit. You know what I'm saying for the weekend when he pick up girls and drive to the mansion. But when he was driving through town in Birmingham, had a dented up Honda Civic, and I thought that was brilliant. You don't want people to know who you are. So why do we attract so much attention with our name brands? It's to try to make up for that badge of dishonor. I used to wonder why, when I was growing up in the '90s, I don't know if y'all remember the Tommy Hilfiger jackets. I wanted one so bad I couldn't afford one. But the Hill figure, and it was this big name, Hill figure, Hill figure. And as I got older, I was like, why in the hell would I like nice shit? I still do, but why? I don't want nobody's name written all over me. And I just wonder why these kids have their name written. And it dawned on me because it was to try to counter that badge of dishonor. I'm a Black American. I'm related to the slave trade. Um, but Tommy Hilfiger approves of me. It's really sad when you look at the psychology. But in conclusion, we need to get paid to counter that badge of dishonor.
Exactly. I've gone through a lot of phases, but I am a minimalist. But I had to go through all the phases of feeling a sense of, like, if I have this car, you have to respect me. Like, the car was what I used to make people give me respect. And then when I lived in cities where I didn't have a car because it wasn't, feasible, I had to get a bunch of designer clothes. I found that all of a sudden I had to have designer handbags and clothes. First of all, designer handbags in California, they don't know what that is, okay? So it doesn't work over here. But in New York, they do know what that is. So if you're walking down the street with one, then you get, I really thought about it and I said, we're doing this for 3 seconds or less of someone to, nod at us and say, yeah, oh, that's nice. It, like, you're driving by these people and you're getting just a second of gratification that they think that you're about something. That's part of my minimalist self training that I did. I also give lessons.
Yeah, we need to have a space on that. Yeah, but you're right, Juan. And this the fucked up part is your 3 seconds. Those shoes, oh man, those shoes rock. Next, you know.
Right.
But it's to counter that badge. And my father, those you don't know, I've said this before, but um, in Birmingham, we were in the very low SES neighborhood, and my parents got a divorce, and it was the Crips and the Bloods back then, and me and my sister start getting caught up in that mess, and the Crips will start shooting, and the Bloods across the street. And at one point, the Crips were shooting at the Bloods, and the police, Birmingham PD, was in the middle shooting at the Crips, and nobody cared. They just kept shooting, and my dad was like, "All right, that's enough." So he got a job at a damn gas station to put us in a we got get an apartment that was zoned to a very wealthy high school. It was totally out of my league. It was so wealthy it didn't have a school bus. All the kids had Land Rovers and BMWs. Well, what I noticed right away at the low SES, poor inner city high school, everybody had Tommy Hilfiger, this brand new Jordans. We would wait in line to get Jordans. They were trying to buy their fucking dignity. But when I went to the rich white high school, the kids had fly rides and shit. But these kids, these rich white kids, would actually brag on getting shirts from the thrift store. And that's when I kind of psychologically noticed, like, wait a minute, we're making up for something. Although I didn't understand it then. Twizzle, what you got?
Hey, what's up with the room? What's up, Professor? Sister,
Hey.
Sister
Hey,
Wani,
bro.
black, 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 black. Hey, Sister Wani, you had any smoke yet? Any tethers came in the room yet? The female ones? Are they still ducking and hiding?
No, they
They
don't
still
like
hiding?
me. Yes.
They scared to death, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
I just hey, Professor, you mean to tell me they got Bloods and Crips in Birmingham, Alabama, bro?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Trust me.
Wow. See, you
Yes.
was talking. I'm thinking you talking about L.A., South Central, or Compton, because I'm from California. I'm from Northern California. We don't do that in Northern California. It ain't no red and blue in Northern California. It's only in one part, and that's Sacramento. But the Bay, we don't do red and blue. So when I heard you say that, I'm like, I just knew you were from SoCal. But okay, but just to get to the point, what percentage of Africans sold slaves? That's an easy question to answer. Ask the question, how many Africans fought slavery and how many Africans won a slave rebellion against the British, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Germans, and all European colonies? That's the easy way to answer that question. And now one of them won one because they was participants in the slave trade. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing they like to cover up. But yet at the same time too, they wouldn't have been able to. They wouldn't have been able to acquire that many black people if they didn't have no help for the black people who were on that side of the continent. So that's why they and that's why I say a lot of these tethers have an issue with us because you know the majority of our tethers come from the Horn of Africa, and we all know what a horn is. You know what I'm saying? That's where the majority of our tethers come from because they know they were the ones who were so weak and submitted and gave in, but yet not they didn't fight. I'm gonna give shout outs to African queen, Queen Nzinga, because she fought the slavery and she fought British imperialism and she won. So shout out to that one black queen.
We
But yet to
can't
say
give her any credit anymore because she participated in the Angolan slave trade. She fought for her people to not be enslaved, but she participated in the Angolan slave trade. Unfortunately, this is what I was raised to believe my whole life, that she was a warrior queen and she fought, but she participated in slavery too. Unfortunately, she was the
how she
one that
get her
won.
money. Hey, on that note, Sister Wanting, I'm gonna blow it out like a candles because I trust you. But I'm just gonna say this though. On some real shit, we all know the slave trade, when they came, they all came through the Caribbeans because the Caribbeans was a port of entry, you know? So through my knowledge, through my history, through my teachers, the majority of black people that left Africa went to South America, went to the Brazil, and all around there. Only a small percentage came to America. So who were the percentage and who were the majority of the black people who they came over here and so-called conquered? I'll drop my mic there. And I just want to give a shout out to the room. Hey everybody, happy Sunday, and let's get it popping.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, I'm putting what Twizzle said in the jumbotron. I got a map. He was actually correct. The majority of the transatlantic slave trade went through the Caribbean. So stand by one moment while I put it. Carl, what you got?
Yes, Wani, I found that space that I was listening to. It was June 8th, 2024. June 8th, 2024. And the space was called "Are Africans Getting Ahead of U.S. Negroes?" Jet Magazine, 1961. Uh, the person who was holding the space was New Negro Republic. New Negro Republic. And he was reading the article out of the Jet Magazine, 1961. Are
Mm,
Africans getting ahead of U.S. Negroes? And all that information was in that Jet Magazine.
I will check that out. Thank you so much.
Very fascinating.
No, but I
Now,
was just going to say real quick before we go on to another topic. You were right. I have seen so many millionaires bumbling around in broken down Volkswagens out here in California. It's really something. Raggedy pants, rumpled up shirts, and they actually called them the
Were you talking
millionaires
about
next
Berkeley?
door.
You talking
No,
about Berkeley?
we were to they do that there too, don't they? No, this was actually centered around the beach. Somebody would say, "Oh yeah, that's that big producer who produced this show," or "This is this big guy." They point him out, and sure enough, it would be that guy. And he'd have on a wrinkled up shirt, crumpled up khaki pants, torn up shoes, getting in and out of his Volkswagen. They had a lot of those very wealthy guys that drove around looking beat down. They don't look, we have a couple of things going on. Number one, we look good. We're flashy. And in my opinion, we're really the only people that look good. That we look wealthy.
Sister Wani,
Everybody else
I got
looks
an answer to
crazy.
that. I got an
What?
answer to that, Sister Wani. You know, since I've been working in sporting and entertainment, I've been in this culinary industry over 30 years and I worked for major sporting teams. I done met owners, I done met franchise owners, I done met a lot of executives. One thing I learned, the difference between them and us, the differences with them is they thrive for power. You know, we thrive for money and wealth. And it's a difference between that. You know, white people don't care about
Preach.
nothing but power. They want control. They don't care about who has this, who has what. All they care about is they controlling that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what that's what I experienced. And that's when I learned the difference between money and power. I learned the difference that I can have $10 million, right? But it could be a white man next to me who don't have shit, but he has control over five people, and out them five people, they can be worth 500 million. So what? Who has more power? You know what I'm saying? That's when I learned that difference, and that's something I experienced. And this something I ain't reading a book. This ain't something I saw on TV, or this something is something passed down. And this something that I witnessed when I used to throw those parties for these multi-billionaire parties like John Hancock Financial, J.P. Morgan, Chase Financial. When I used to throw all these parties for them, I used to see them all kissing this one old white man ass because he was in charge of everything. And you 100% white. You 100% right, Wani. He walking around with some dirty ass polo shorts, dirty ass fucking Caprizio shoes, dirty trapping as fuck, driving an old ass car that he bought when he graduated from college. But he was in charge of a multi-billion dollar financial corporation. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I learned the difference between money and power. So that's why I teach all my young brothers now. Don't concentrate on money, concentrate on power. Concentrate on putting yourself in a position of power to where you got control over so many entities to where they gonna bow down and kiss your ass just for your favor. And if you don't believe me, dig into the history of Ivan the Terrible of Russia. You know, Ivan the Terrible of Russia was one of the most poorest monarchs out because he was one of the most vicious and ruthless. He was one of the most sought after, and everybody seek this influence. You know what I'm saying? The richer, the most powerful, all European nations, they kissed his ass and bowed down to him because he was the most ruthless one. That's why he is named Ivan the Terrible, and that's why you still remember his name 200-300 years from now. So hey, I land my plane there, y'all.
Thank you. But
Wani, you're saying we look rich, we look
yeah,
regal.
we look good and we look good dressed up because we had some, of course, not nice clothes on the plantation. But when those men went to join the military and they were in the Buffalo Soldiers had on their those long fur coats. I don't know what it's made out of. And they had
Buffalo,
on
those are buffalo
is
jackets.
that buffalo
Yeah, they was real.
wool?
That's why they call them buffalo soldiers.
Because they said they called them buffalo soldiers because their hair, and I said, but that coat
No,
looks like buffalo.
no, Sister Wani,
It is curly
the
like a
Nate
buffalo.
the long haired Chinese looking Asian Americans, they called the Buffalo Soldiers that because the black men, they had the hair course of the buffalo. Not only that, they had the brown eyes, fierce as ferocious as the buffalo. That's why they called them the Buffalo Soldiers. The white people, they said they called them the Buffalo Soldiers because the black men wore buffalo jackets when they went into war. But no, it was the Native Americans, the Chinese, the long hair Pocahontas looking type. Those was the ones that named them Buffalo Soldiers because they had the curly, thick, black, coarse hair like buffaloes and the brown, ferocious eyes as the buffaloes. Because you know they used to hunt buffalo and they ain't never seen nothing but like the buffalo until they seen some real black Americans come through. Them big 6 foot, 7 foot niggas come through with man. Come on, ain't nothing more fierce, ferocious or nothing. That's why America is scared of. They are scared of them big dark-skinned black males because there ain't nothing more powerful, nothing more ferocious, as in the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, and ain't no bigger fighting force in the planet than a motherfucking black American dark-skinned male. I land my plane there.
Yeah, yeah, yes, sir. Twizzle, being in the education field, I have to agree with you. My logic, I mean, my evidence to support what you're saying is the big alpha male, dark skin type brother gets targeted right away in school systems before he opens his mouth. It's either like what I've seen is put him in the football field, and if he don't want football, kick him out.
Anyway,
But Wani, I agree
I
with you.
was trying to.
We look
We
regal.
do look. We looked extremely handsome in those military outfits, and then our mothers were making all those three-piece suits, And we always look good. And I think it's important. I wish people would get back to dressing like that and dressing up because I think it really, when
Sister
they
Lonnie,
say
why you
that,
hurt my feelings like that? I dress
I
with
think
finesse with a style that's blessed and everything rest. You know, come on, don't hurt me.
I think clothes make the man, like they said. I really do. I think clothes make the man. I think when you're dressed a certain way, you act a certain way. When you're groomed like
Facts.
that, you feel you have your self esteem is higher. I know it's a fact. You just feel good about yourself. And we, something about us looks, we look good in our clothes. We look good. We look rich when we dress up like that, and other people don't. I've seen these I don't want to make jokes, but some of those Asian women, when they get dressed up, they look like they just got off of a rice paddy. They don't look rich. They're just shuffling around. I don't know. None of these people look rich. They look like I have on rich
Sister Lonnie,
things.
why are you being mean?
I'm dissing. I'm slick dissing.
You
Everybody looks
want some
like
smoke tonight, Lonnie?
I do, but no
See,
one
this is
wants to
what it
give me
is.
any.
The whites created fashion, but black people created style.
They never created
Hmm.
fashion. I disagree with that. They
No,
didn't create fashion for the simple fact they didn't know what fashion was until they saw us. You remember the Harlem Renaissance? Remember all them days?
that's well. There's a difference between fashion and style. I'm talking about like they created the fashions that dominated the Euro suit look, but we put style to those fashions.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I
Now,
100%
I
agree.
had a white boy tell me, first of all, he told me that white people made pants. Then he told me that women didn't wear pants, and that if women can wear pants, then men can wear dresses. So we know who we're arguing with, right?
That's
So, anyway, that's not true. Number one, the oldest pants, first of all, pants were created to ride horses. Let's get that out of the way. We're never going to know the first person that made pants because they were created to ride horses on. And women and men wore them to ride horses. But Chinese people do have the oldest pants, and they did have a horse riding culture. And they said on the Silk Route, it was often written about women wearing pants. And that's a long time ago. So women definitely wore pants, and pants were created, and so were shirts and jackets. And of course, we lived in America, and we had the access to the clothes here. And we made those into our own styles, like zoot suits. That was our thing. And then it became popular among Latino people because we had a closer relationship with people like that prior until they built up their numbers and then, pretty much became backstabbers.
but that's pretty much of our culture though. Cause as they said, just as soon as we're left alone, we are able to rise, we're able to grow just like every green thing in the sun. You know what
Exponentially,
I'm saying?
Rizzle Twizzle.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the reason why America is what it is right now because they've been impeding our progress for the past 200 years. My mentor, my OG, Mr. JC, you always tell me one thing you can do is you can slow progress down, but you can't stop it. And we are the definition of that. Black Americans, we are the definition of progress because everything they do, every law that they implemented, and every sanction that they come across is for us. And what do? We work around it, we circumvented it, and those are walls that we either break down, go around, or climb. You know what I'm saying? We've been doing this since the beginning. But once Wani said the fashion, I want to go to that because she 100% correct. Y'all, I know y'all brothers from the South. Y'all remember that clothing line, Mayor T. Francois Jabot? Remember Jabot jeans?
Yeah, Jabot
Remember
jeans.
what we
Yeah.
did
Yeah, I
to
had
Jabot
every
jeans?
color
I
said
remember
today.
we wore Jabot jeans in the late 80s, early 90s. And Jabot jeans came back when Juvenile and them came out. And that's how I know because that's our shit. We made those styles. It was back in the late 80s, early 90s. It was Jabot jeans and it was another style of clothing called blackmail. It was blackmail clothing, and they used to have a shirt. It was short in the front and low in the back. And that was our style. And when Juvenile came out with my we say with my Jabot jeans and my Reeboks, you know what I mean? He brought Jabots back. We made that shit famous. Just like us in California, we made Levi's famous. We made fucking Ben Davis famous. We create the style. You 100% correct. They may create the fashion, but we put the significance and the stamp on the style. That's why that motherfucker, that Tether Block Burner, whatever his name is from Africa, he said, we watch Black Americans because Black Americans come up with all the style. They are the significance of the style, and they are the fathers and creators of the style. And I know this shit. I'm from the West Coast. I am an originator of style. That's why my motherfucking name is Twizzle, because we created the for shizzle. You understand? On the real. We ain't, man, come on, bro. I come from the land of the Black Panthers. And what did they say? The Black Panthers changed the world, man. So, man, I don't drop my mic, nigga. I slam my mic right there.
Get it, Twizzle.
You originated nothing. No, I'm just playing. How y'all doing? Love, peace, and
Bad news is
reparation.
acting up.
Hey,
Bad news. You are appropriately
It
named, sir.
is so naughty. Yes. One thing I noticed is that we love these fashion houses. They call them fashion houses, and I've said, why do they call them houses? It was actually in a house. Anyway, they would have these families that made things like fine crafted instruments, clothes, shoes. And so these things, of course, developed into these very big brands, but we like that stuff. We are definitely into all of the instruments that came out of those European houses. Uh, we really put a spin on those things. So they might have made those fine crafted instruments, which is not a big deal. Okay, we don't have to make the instrument to play the hell out of it, which we did, and we don't have to have a fashion design house to wear the hell out of it and make it look good. And we definitely did, and we do have an affinity for fashion. We look very good in clothes. We look rich. We look wealthy when we're dressed up like that. Of course, that's not popular now, but I think maybe Madonna made everyone want to look like a homeless woman. I don't know.
there was a huge operation, I almost want to say it was COINTELPRO. COINTEL, the whole whatever operation that Dr. Dre um, was alluded to being a part of, um, changed that. Because I lived through it. I discovered in elementary school is when I became, like Carl Jung said, I kind of became aware of music. I became aware of music, and it was like SWV and Boys to Men, and I was like, and that's still when our culture was still intact. And I remember when Dr. Dre dropped, and that kind of changed. I would argue that that was intentional because dressing nice, dressing professional and dignified has was a part of the foundational Black American culture for damn near 100 years. I mean, go back to the Harlem Renaissance, like Twizzle said. Go prior to that during Reconstruction. Um, Even look at the civil rights of the little boys and girls being hosed down. They all had on
Mhm.
suits and ties.
Yes,
You know what
we
I'm saying?
look nice.
That's who we are. Come on, Twizzle.
I got one more before, and this go way, way, way back. I'm gonna say one word: gold. We was the ones who created gold, founded gold, and cultivated gold. And what did it do to the motherfucking Europeans and the white people? It drove them crazy. It gave them that gold rush. We was the ones who identify precious jewels and precious metals. You know what I'm saying? Because we have that culture. Like I tell y'all, y'all know I come from the culinary world. And I tell everybody, and if anybody disagree with me, I'll pull up on y'all and I'll beat y'all ass, bend y'all with my knee, whatever. Soul food is not a particular food. Soul food is what black people cook because as us being black people, our taste buds is way more vast than everybody else out there. We can make Chinese food better than the Eastern. We can make Polynesian food better than any motherfucker from the islands. We can make Hispanic food better than any motherfucker from Baja, Mexico, anywhere from the Gulf. And we can make Chinese food better than any motherfucker who chased down dogs and cats just to get their meat. We have a unique taste buds because we are the original people to where our palate is way more vast than anybody else. I experienced this shit in 328 years in cooking the culinary industry. I didn't cook from chefs from Chicago. I didn't cook from chefs from New York. I didn't cook from chefs from Florida. I didn't cook from chefs from fucking New Orleans, all around there. And they all told me that I made the food better than the recipe because they was white and they didn't have a taste palates like I have. Whenever you eat your food, whenever you taste it, don't taste with the top of your tongue. Suck it to make sure it go to the bottom because that's when you gonna get that. I'm serious. That's
What?
when you gonna get that.
Pause.
You thinking like that? Then get your mind out the gutter, nigga.
His
We
mind's
talking
in the
food.
gutter.
Yeah, you hear that? This ain't Anthony Bourdain and food porn, nigga. Come on now. Rest in peace to the great Anthony Bourdain. I used to fuck with him, man. They killed him, man. But yeah, but I'm serious, y'all. Next time y'all eat your food, when you taste your food, just suck on it. Then you will get the real flavor of it because
I don't know.
your
Sounds a
palate ain't
little
on top,
sexy
your
to me.
palate on the
Sounds a
bottom.
bit too
Get your
sexy
mind
for
out the
dinner.
gutter.
My
Get
mind
your
is in the
mind out the
gutter. I can't
gutter.
get it out of here.
That's you, Sister Ronnie. I'm sorry. Come on, let me get some holy water and
He's
bless
like,
you.
just make sure
Come
you
on, get
suck
it
on the
out of
chicken
you,
bone
Chuck. But I'm
before
serious.
you
Just try
swallow.
it, y'all. Whenever y'all go eat, just try it. But this is coming from a chef, a black American chef.
I'm
A
going
real
to agree
soul
with
food chef.
you. I'm going to agree with you
No,
100% on the census, okay? Because I notice this when I have to go on tours with groups of white people. They don't enjoy themselves unless they're inside the lion's mouth. And it's like,
jumping off the
can you
cliff. Yes.
stop going that close? I don't want to see you eaten. They're holding their babies over the lion, okay? They're climbing up the tree to bother the parrot. They're
I got something better,
climbing,
Wani.
they're
When they go
climbing up
to
the
Wani,
pyramids.
Wani, when they go to Yellowstone and they get out their car and try to pet buffaloes, when they try to pet buffaloes, and
Right.
the
They
buffaloes
try
is
to
running
pet
their ass down,
buffaloes.
goring them, and they get mad at the buffaloes. Why did they do that? They say, do
They
not pet
try
the
to
animals.
feed a
Do not get
bear.
out the cars. Yes. But
They
they want
try
to get
to
out their car
feed.
and take a picture to a motherfucking buffalo bigger than a motherfucking
Y'all know what that is?
18
Y'all know what
van.
that is?
There's
That's the product of so-called privilege. It disconnects you from the real dangers of
no, but
reality.
it's more than that. It is. They think they're invincible,
Right.
number one, because of the privilege, but that's not the reason they're doing it. The reason they're doing it is because they're not enjoying anything. It's like, no, I need more, more. I need more stimulation, more, more. This flower looks nice. We're in a flower field. We're supposed to walk through that. I gotta pick all the flowers. I have to molest everything around me. I can't just enjoy the pyramids. I have to climb up the pyramids and get a fine. I can't just enjoy looking at the hieroglyphic. I have to get all up on it and get over the rope. That's telling them not to get all the ropes. They violate all the ropes. If you go to, Stonehenge, they're all over the rope. I'm like, why didn't I get to go over the rope and get a good picture? You go to the Easter Island to look at those big heads. They have ropes up there because they don't because of their monkey ass tearing stuff up. So they put ropes up and then they jump over the rope and get a picture and they don't care if they get in trouble. And I'm trying to be polite and I'm like, well, my picture is far away from the heads. Why do they get to violate? And the ropes are put up because of their violation. They do it at every site. They always do something extra like they're not enjoying it. Like they can't, like I'm going somewhere, I'm at a mountain. I'm like, wow, look at that. Oh, we have to go up it. We have to, climb it. We've got to do all this stuff on it. Why? Just look at it. We're having a good time right now. Not them. I don't believe they can
Yeah.
taste food. I don't think they can see the same amounts of colors. And I don't think that their senses are not enjoying things the same way without going all out of the way.
I'm gonna find a piece of textual evidence from it's very interesting. One of my heroes, Dr. Amos Wilson, wrote a book, the Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. You used to be able to get that free PDF off Google, but on one page, so Dr. Wilson, if y'all remember Gerber baby food, Gerber published a study on children, I think with the intent of trying to make black children seem stupid. But the developmental psychology study showed that black children develop at an exponential rate as compared to white children. Oh man, it's such a pretty article. It says that basically it says like on day one, a black child holds its head up and smiles. A white child doesn't have that ability until like what 3 months or something, and just little stuff like that. And Dr. Amos Wilson's posits that given the fact that black children have that genetic advantage, the system goes overboard trying to, like Twizzle was saying, keep us in line, like trying to think of just trying to keep us from being who we are. You know what I'm saying? But how that ties into taste buds is I it's something to that. It's something to sensory deprivation. I'm hypersensitive. Like when I get go to the dentist or stuff, like I can't take all that. You know, my body I feel like is very sense. I can feel the medication. I can feel the drill. I feel it more than other groups of people. Well, long story short, I went with a group of scholars to Costa Rica, and I'll put a picture in the Drumatron of the waterfall. But we went to the second most beautiful waterfall I ever seen. The most beautiful one was in Africa, full of bats, gigantic bats flying all around it. But this one was gorgeous as hell. They're jagged rocks. I mean, me and my wife got in our underwear and jumped in the water. The water tastes like fucking what's that like um, what do you call that water? The good one, Evian or some shit. Like it got some flew in my mouth, and I was like, "Nah, I'm drinking it." It was delicious, perfect. So the professors with us, the Caucasian professors with us, they couldn't just sit there and drink the water and swim and make out in the shade. They couldn't do that. They had to walk all the way to the top and jump off that motherfucker. Like I got scared as hell. I was like, "Oh my god, please!" Because it's jagged rock, man. If you miscalculate just a little bit, you gonna bust
They
your head. I mean,
will kill you. They will get you killed if you try to do what they're doing.
man. I know it was no way in hell I couldn't believe that they were doing that. Hold on, y'all talk while I find a picture. Let me show you this fucking waterfall. Stand
They
by.
will do that. That's another thing. I can enjoy the waterfall from down below or from another vantage point. Oh no, they have to get up on it, go down the waterfall, kill themselves. They're always doing something. I have never gone on a tour where they didn't do something outrageous. And I just sat there looking. Even their wives are looking like, wait a minute. They're all over the place and they can't enjoy themselves. I literally was holding my breath because this person was holding their baby over a lion where the lion was right there. The baby doesn't need to see it that much. The slip of your hand and your child is down there with a lion. We don't know what the lion's going to do. It might run, it might bite. I mean, it's unpredictable. Probably a primate would be okay for a minute, but you're dropping your baby. So stop. I don't know what it is, but their senses are different. Because I swear, when I'm with black people, they don't need to do all that. They just look at the things and keep it pushing, but they don't. They do not.
Yeah, I put the picture in the jumbotron. Look at that. Look how jagged that rock is, man. And look, you can't really see, you can't really gauge you know what I'm saying? If you fall in that, they were jumping in that water, in that waterfall. So like you see how jagged that rock
Mm-hmm.
is, man? Like like no shit, I was like nervous. I was like, oh my God, one of them's gonna get killed. Somehow nobody got killed. But yeah, black people are we're there's a difference. There's a sensory difference. And there's a difference in perception too. We can see things that a lot of people don't see. Um, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said that uh, George Washington Carver would walk outside early in the wee hours of the morning and be able to communicate on a high level with plants. He could
Wow.
communicate spiritually. Yeah.
Well, I know that being under the gun the way that we were, we have a heightened sense of our senses are heightened. They really are. And that's part of the reason why we can be very good at sports and we can be very artistic. We do have different senses, so that could be part of it.
Yeah, I read somewhere years ago that studies was done on us, and this is kind of off topic, but studies was done on us to kind of counter our, again, back to Twizzle's point, counter our progress because we were starting to exponentially, the whole COINTELPRO thing. And studies, biological studies, was done on our nervous system, and they found that our nervous system was different than any other nervous system. And make a long story short, um, this article posited that that's why crack cocaine was developed, because crack cocaine affected the black nervous system differently than any other nervous system. Like basically, when we smoke crack, like it just like it was no return. It basically overloaded our nervous system and sent us to a place that we couldn't come back from. I had a family member, real close family member, get on. I'm glad she's alive. We almost lost her. Get on crack. And if y'all think I'm smart, this girl's a lot smarter than me. She was in school engineering and had a roommate and just puffed on a little crack, and that was 25 years of almost losing her.
Oh,
But
wow.
it sent her on a mission, man. Just it was on. She was on a mission when she smoked it. But yeah, so Dr. Francis Quest Welsing, back to the difference in perception, on page 233 of her book, The ISIS Papers, which I recommend everybody in this room get while you still can. She says in 1987, the first melanin conference, at the first melanin conference, I discussed the Crest theory on George Washington Carver phenomenon, suggesting that the skin melanocytes of this very black skinned scientist, who had a very high concentration of melanin in skin pigment, enabled him to communicate with the energy frequencies emanating from plants. He was able to learn their secrets and purposes. The melanocytes, and this is deep as hell. I'm not gonna masquerade as a scientist, so if I screw it up to my science inclined colleagues in here, please forgive me. But there are two cells. The most complicated cell is obviously the brain cell, right? The second most complicated cell is a melanocyte, like a skin cell in a black person. So basically, your skin, according to Dr. Cress Welsing, if I'm saying it right, your skin completes the circuit from your brain to your environment. So our skin is smart, according to Dr. Welsing, and connected to our brain, we can sense things that other groups can't sense. I mean, I can't tell y'all how many times I walked into a party or a party or something when I was younger, and something just clear as they say, "Man, get your ass up out of here." And I walked up out of there, and it got shot up. Or I was with a lady, and some just said, "Man, leave her ass alone." And then I bid her a good night, and then find out from somebody else that she had somebody didn't want. Um, we're really different.
I'm making a post right now to someone who's, I don't know why that guy just sits up there and says stuff to provoke. They just like to poke the bear. It's as simple as that, all day long, poking the bear. Hey, Andy.
I want to ask someone a question. Does anyone know why everyone always wants to touch a black man?
They used to think it was good luck. It was good luck to touch. Tariq Nasheed talked about that in one of his documentaries. They would have a slave around to touch. They and touch our hair. That's a good question, Andy. They thought it was good luck to rub a Negro. In
Are they still
fact,
doing
the
it?
Yes, that's
yes,
that's
unfortunately.
the reason why I'm asking, and I'm not trying to be funny this time or be sarcastic. I observe when black men are out in public and the amount of people that surreptitiously try to touch black men. It's not the same, black women, everyone wants to touch our hair and all this stupid stuff, but it's a difference. I notice that everybody always tries to touch. black men, and it's weird. And so I was wondering if anyone had read about it or they know, the underlying reason for it, because I think it's extremely dangerous to our men to always be touched like that.
Yeah, the National Baseball League, which didn't accept Negroes back in the day, if y'all recall, it was Lily White. They would have the what do you call it, the water boy. He would exclusively be a black man because the baseball players and the coaching staff wanted to rub them before they got on the played the game. They believed that we had some type of energy. It's a it's an old European superstition. Hell, it may be true. Who knows?
Well,
But
What a
I'm,
bunch of freaks.
they are freaks. You remember when you were talking about the different muscles and the type of muscles that different ethnic groups have, and it just it made so much sense. So the heart muscle has memory as well, right? And so when you're talking about the melanocyte and our muscle structure, which is a bit different, I wonder if that contributes to physical intelligence. We have so much muscle, and perhaps that muscle also has memory. I'm wondering,
that's exactly what I was trying to allude to. I
okay,
just didn't
yeah.
I didn't articulate it. Science is not my area of
No,
expertise.
it's not my area of expertise either. I had just read about when they do heart transplants and those people start having hideous memories, and they found track that too. That the heart muscle also has memory. It has almost equal memory as your brain. And so because we have a lot of, I think it's called short fast muscle or is it quick fast muscle? Somebody correct me. I wonder if that muscle has if it's endowed with more memory than the type of muscle that they have, which makes us that much more sensitive. So if your heart has memory, your brain has memory, and just your body itself has all that memory, it's like, okay, what do we have all this memory for?
Yeah, it goes back to the question: who are we? And then why are we wanting? This is a really a wanting question. Why do we have all these abilities and seemingly um, people from the diaspora in India that have deep melanin contact contents don't have these abilities. So how does that work?
I think a lot of things have happened with all of the ethnogenesis being put under pressure. We've experienced something that nobody else has experienced. They just haven't experienced it. And if they have, it doesn't show up in their culture where they have been excelling at sports, excelling at inventions, excelling at civil rights, activism, abolitionists, even politicians, to be honest. We came right out of the gate getting involved in the political system. It was just a very strange time because Black Americans got very good positions in politics, but then there was always some person that would say, wait a minute, they can't be in here like that. But there would be a lot of people that would say, yeah, well, if they're not enslaved anymore, they're regular citizens. So they should be in these positions. They should be, mayors and governors of things, and then there was always someone that said, no, we have to sabotage them. We have to do something. So at this late date, what they've done is that, yes, we're allowed to get these positions, even all the way up to the presidency, but as controlled opposition. So we don't actually have these positions anymore because there's always someone standing there pulling the strings behind those faces. And that's unfortunate because it's basically put us in a powerless position. And then, if I complain, then some white person's going to come along and say, well, I'm not getting the things I want out of the government. And I can't even say that that's not true. Someone is pulling the strings on the white leaders so that white people and black people can't get what they want out of the system. And the system is unfortunately rigged. We live in a very corrupt system. But there was a time when white people could get things that they wanted, schools funded, roads fixed, infrastructure, and there was a time when we couldn't. And that's how we started saying, hey, we want separate but equal. And then the next thing you know, we were all shoved together and integrated together.
Yeah, I got quiet because I was trying to take a picture of you when you said we were entering politics right out the gate. Robert Smalls came to my mind. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to put in the jumbotron a picture and a little article of one of our ancestors who was a check this out for a hero story. He was a slave during the Civil War, and he basically in the Confederacy, he snuck out and stole a Confederate boat, like a naval vessel, put his family on the boat, drove the boat past a naval gun placements, like that would have blew him to smithereens. In the stealth of the night, played the actor like, "Hey, yeah, I'm a white dude. I'm cool. I'm just driving the boat on out." Drove it to the Union Army, gave the boat to the Union Army, right, and ran for Congress. Who name any other genealogy that has a story like that?
I don't
Yep,
think it's
he
possible that they
sure
could have
did.
that. That's why I hate when they compare us to Native Americans because I have not seen the same type of intellect or creativity. It's not me putting them down, but I hate when people say, okay, Black Americans are Native Americans because it's not the same level of intellect. I hate to hear that.
Why would I want to associate myself with someone that does not have any famous civil rights leaders? They haven't done any kind of abolition work for themselves. All they have done is just said, give us some land to live on and leave us alone. They haven't even participated in the system. I think they had one person in the Olympics, Jim Thorpe, and that's it. They're going to ride on like I said, we do masses of things. And these people will do one tiny thing and have that all blown up like, oh, I only have to have one legend. We have tons of legends. I only have to have one little stretch of train tracks. So Chinese people are credited with putting train tracks in the West. But that stretch of train tracks was 700 miles versus thousands of miles of tracks. Plus, it wasn't just them, it was other immigrants. The Irish and everybody else was over there. So it wasn't even them that built that little tiny stretch. So it's just like like they said, we have to do 10 times as much. But it's not only that. There's not enough for us to do. These other groups here, they don't have Buffalo Soldier equivalents. They don't have Tuskegee Airmen equivalents. They don't have HBCU equivalents. They don't have 50,000 patents in a short period of time for this country. They don't have anything, nothing. They have very little accomplishments. They don't have all these music genres, nothing. They don't have all these sports heroes. Do you see Native Americans winning the Olympics? Do you see Chinese people winning the Olympics for us? No, we're all over the place. We are what's winning the Olympics, period. We're the reason why the United States wins the Olympics all the time. We're the secret weapon. And these other countries, they have tons of Africans. They have tons of Africans. What's the problem? It's not about being of African descent. There's something special, isn't there? I mean, it's proven. They're not coming up with the music genres. They don't have all the sports legends. They've given me every excuse under the sun. You guys have a more powerful country. You have good training. And we were sports legends with no training, with no outfits, with no stadiums. We were sports legends. They came over and got us and had us to come over and play on their more established teams. I won't say more established, but I guess more professional. But I saw the Negro Leagues and it looked pretty professional to me, so I'm not sure why they left, but you could make the case that the baseball and the football was not as developed as the Negro Leagues.
that goes back to the lineage that we talked about in the other space when in Dr. Chancellor Williams' book, where Dr. Williams identifies a very interesting group of people who the Portuguese had a higher premium to enslave because these people knew how to do stuff. They knew how to build. They were peaceful. Um, what if that's our lineage? What are these the what if we are these people? Now I got to really kind of dance around this because I don't want to say something I'm not supposed to and disappear. But I've done research. Earlier, you said something momentarily ago. You said something about when we rise up and we start stepping into the light. Certain groups say, "Nope, can't happen." Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna say that there are organized groups. I'm not gonna name them of individuals who have a known agenda to make sure that the black man and woman shall never rise again. Um, this is well documented. I will mention a couple of the groups, but I'm not going to mention the main one. Um, if you look at President Abraham Lincoln, a racist, yes, a racist. Lincoln was put into a situation where he was getting his ass whooped with the Civil War because Southern Confederates had a culture, and still do, culture of guns. If anybody here is from the South, we love our guns. We love shooting and that type of thing. Um, so Lincoln had a chance meeting with Frederick Douglass, a genius without a degree, who said, "I got a solution. I give you the slaves to fight. However, it has a condition precedent. The condition is you need to free us." Now, Lincoln thought he was being slick as an attorney. He was a lawyer, and as an attorney, he issued Emancipation Proclamation. I tell my students to look up the etymology of emancipate. Emancipate does not mean free. Anybody here who's ever had a child taken from them, an emancipation hearing does what? Transfers a child from one parent to another. Emancipate comes from the Latin emancipare, which means to transfer. So Lincoln would play the little pimp game on Douglas and transferred, according to attorney Alton Maddox. Maddox argued that our ownership was transferred from private white slave owners to the government system. But I digress. Well, when Lincoln did that, that was a big no-no. You weren't supposed to get your hand off the that. Let me put it this way: it was a big no-no with a special group of people that Lincoln was not a member of. Neither was Kennedy. You see the connection I'm making? Um, well, that was one thing, but one of Lincoln's generals went rogue. Thank goodness, and said, "Fuck this, I'm burning the South to the ground." That was William Tecumseh Sherman. Something came over Sherman's heart, and Sherman granted us land, Special Field Order 15, which gave us land and a mule. Um, that was too much for the society that I'm hinting at. Remember, the black man and woman were never supposed to rise again. And once Special Field Order 15 got word back to the White House, um, Lincoln's assistant vice president, who was a member of several of those societies, actually went incommunicado with a criminal named Albert Pike, an attorney and Confederate general who was considered a war criminal, and conspired with Albert Pike to have something done with Lincoln. Well, um, Andrew Johnson was a member of a group called Knights of the Golden Circle, which was a subset of another group I'm not going to mention. Albert Pike was members of that group and of another group and was rumored to help create the Ku Klux Klan. Well, Albert Pike allegedly reached out to his one of his brothers in of Knights of the Golden Circle named John Wilkes Booth. Does that sound familiar? And the rest is history. Lincoln got shot in the back of the head. So I'm saying that to say, from my studies, I have very convincing evidence that there's a group that has their eye on the Black American. I mean, the Black American man and woman, and within their interest to make sure that we don't rise to our full potential. Now, the real question is why, and the answer is I don't know.
You're hitting on all cylinders. I just looked it up. And Albert Pike Memorial Temple, Masonic of the Jewish Synagogue. And so that is a very important thing. And a certain group of people were very well known, well heeled group of people in the South. If you study the Statue of Liberty, you know that they were also a part of that to change exactly how the Statue of Liberty was to be presented and what she was to represent. They were 100% behind that. And they're 100% behind our historical immigration policies.
Wake it
Okay.
up.
Okay. And one of the, as we keep saying, immigration is only used to economically suppress us. And that group is working diligently. To this day, they've never varied from their mission. So that's a very interesting thing to learn as well. I know of no other group that hates us with the intensity that they do.
Yeah, and if you and this is way off topic, but if you fast forward to President Kennedy, well, from what I was told by an unnamed person, is this group um, kind of like gets politicians under control with their money, which makes sense. I'll give you $100 million, but when I come asking for a favor, you gonna owe me a favor. That type of some mafia shit. Well, let's look at President Kennedy. President Kennedy didn't need a fucking dime from nobody because his daddy was a dope dealer. Now I know we want to call it bootlegging, but given the fact alcohol was illegal back in those days, it was no different than crack cocaine. So Jack Kennedy was a dope dealer, a very successful dope dealer. So Kennedy didn't really rely on outsiders for money from his campaign. He just went to daddy. And if you look back, Daddy had an interest of making sure that all his boys got into politics and became famous, right? Well, here you go. You got this young, um, competent, well-liked president who got a security clearance and saw some things about these groups that he didn't like. And Kennedy went on record saying, "I'm coming after this group because it's un-American." I'm paraphrasing. And what happened to him? He got shot in broad daylight on color TV when people didn't have color TVs back then. Do you think that group was trying to make a statement with Kennedy?
Yes,
Well, the statement worked because no other president has since him has attempted to do anything. Back to the original topic um, of did Africans sell? Uh, what percentage of Africans sold slaves? Those of you who weren't in the room earlier, unfortunately, according to Dr. Dorothy and Carl Snyder, they're both scholars. They're married and they do scholarship on the transatlantic slave trade a lot. So Twizzle hit on this earlier, but they say free Africans as a group by this is on page 5 of the book. They say free Africans as a group by no means objected to the slave trade. So um, yesterday I sent y'all a picture of me at at Coast at Elmina Castle. Um, with hiding my camera so I didn't get charged again as for the press rate. I'm gonna post that picture again. I want y'all to look behind me. This pissed me off. It almost ruined my trip a little bit. When I looked out of that slave castle and I saw the big ass neighborhood, it really ticked me off. I thought like, why didn't y'all come help us? Like, what the fuck? But
Yes,
Dr. Snyder.
because we're not them. That's the part we don't understand because we're not them. They never viewed the people they were selling as their people, unlike the way that we look at people like that. I actually look at everyone like that. I look at any child that I would see in danger, I would try to help. Any old lady that can't open the door, I would try to help. But they just don't see things that way. So
So is something wrong with us? Why do we see why do we see things that way? You know?
That's the American way, I guess, that they trained us, to have charitable activities. And they would always say, I mean, this is across the whole country, black or white. Children are starving in Africa, so finish your plate. We were encouraged to give charity. It made us feel good to help from schools, churches, bake sales, whatever. You were encouraged to be charitable to people and to help those in need and to help little old ladies across the street. We did have an ethics movement here, like they would really big that up. My father would say, "My word is my bond," and people would brag about having a good work ethic. So those types of characteristics were um, what America could have been, even though it had that nasty past. They tried to, um, have some sort of ethical behavior among doctors and stuff like this. And it is really eroded away. I have to say, it's eroded away.
Well, I hate to break it to you, ladies and gentlemen, but I this year I'm teaching I teach constitutional law, and I discovered something when we were going over Hobbes and Locke. For those who don't, if you can remember back to, uh, I guess eighth grade. It depends on what state you're in. Seventh grade, when you took U.S. government or civics, depending on your state. If y'all remember, there were basically slave rebellions that caused the white colonists, the elite white colonists, to say, "Hey, man, we need to figure out a plan to keep these folks from turning on us," and it caused the United States to come coalesce and become the United States. Well, long story short, um, Jefferson reached back to philosophers, Hobbes, Locke, Montesquieu, and I forgot the other one. Two Englishmen, two Frenchmen. Well, the most dominant philosopher was Locke, and Locke was a kind of an original version of. I know there's arguments that Willie Lynch didn't exist. I don't know if he did. When I say Willie Lynch, I mean with the Willie Lynch letter. I don't know if Willie Lynch existed or not, but I'm just using Locke to say he was the original version of that. So, long story short, Locke, um, who was an advisor to North and South Carolina slave owners, basically said to use language you don't mean. He advised on some pimping ass shit, really. Like, just, baby, I love you. I love you. Psych. You know what I'm saying? And Locke, it was his philosophy said put liberty and justice for all in the Constitution, and Jefferson plagiarized it. So when it says liberty and justice for all, it didn't really mean it for everybody. Liberty and justice for all elites. So why I'm saying that is the Constitution, although blacks, Foundation of Black Americans, have made it into a good thing. It was intended, and Dr. Claude Anderson talks about this. It was full of game. It was full of like psychology, and so I'm saying how that relates to what Wani was saying is, yeah, I would argue in a scholarly fashion that the original intent of the Constitution wasn't, to have everybody, you know, having a nice society. It was just to trick us into being good so we can get fucked over. Dr. Howard Zinn says Locke himself was a wealthy man with investments in the silk trade and the slave trade. So he was investing in the slave trade. Incomes from loans and mortgages. He invested heavily in the first issue of stock of the Bank of England. Just a few years after that, he had written his second treatise in the classic statement of liberal democracy. As an advisor to the Carolinas, he had suggested a government of slave owners run by wealthy land barons. Locke's statement of People's Government was in support of revolution in England for the free development of mercantile capitalism, home and abroad. Locke himself regretted that the labor of poor children is generally lost to the public till they are 12 or 14 years old, and suggested that all children over 3 of families relief should attend working schools so they would, from infancy, be forced to work. Yeah, he wanted to. Locke believed in slavery, but with the revolution that happened in England, he figured out that you just can't. If you're going to enslave people, you just can't be honest with them. You can't say, "Hey, man, I'm gonna make you a slave, and you're gonna die at work, but I'm gonna live good." You got to tell them, "Hey, man, we're doing this for liberty and justice." Teachers don't teach this stuff.
Trying to understand the morals with the people that we're speaking about is very confusing for me. I don't understand. I can't wrap my head around it because we had missionaries talking amongst themselves, writing letters between themselves, talking about how they felt bad about all the Native Americans that they butchered and made jokes of and raped their children, took their children on the ships, used them as sex slaves, cut their heads off because they had parrots on their shoulders, and poured soap down their throats, and all of it. Just anything they could do. They were just having the times of their lives, according to their records. Um, at some point, someone felt sorry for Native Americans and they said that they could be Christianized. They had humanity. And so, who were they going to enslave? These are religious people, by the way. People like to forget that. These are missionaries. What are we going to do now? We know these Native Americans look horrible. First off, they decimated these people with disease and violence. So they had to be, in pretty bad straits. Anyway, they decided, hey, we know where we can get some humans for sale, to a very popular place where humans are for sale. So the notion that they tricked anyone into selling slaves is incorrect. They were known for selling slaves. They were selling them on both sides uh, of Africa and in the middle. So there, it was all over the place. Almost every country has been touched by slavery over there. Anyway, they decided to use Africans and they came over, and these people were happy to oblige. They
How the hell did they not know that that was going to lower their global self-image? Like, how do you not know that?
that none of them seem to have morals or what we think are morals. They don't see anything wrong with buying human beings, catching human beings, putting them in dungeons, and selling them to people and dragging them places. They don't see anything wrong with dragging people onto plantations. Um, they they don't see anything wrong. They thought it was okay to have sex with children. They think it's okay today. Um, these things are, I mean, we have, our jails are full all over the globe with people that think these things are okay.
Now, you brought up a
I
very good point that I always love for Black people to make, and that is our view of religion. And even if it's not Christianity, so let's just scrape that off the table. Let's just scrape um, Islam off the table, all of it. Our view of humanity is so different. And I challenge people every single day. I've never met a non ADOS Christian who can explain to me why we don't experience God in the same way. I've met other people from different ethnicities who experience or their thought of God is similar to mine. I've never met anyone who was non melanated who can explain to me how and why we experience God differently. And I really would like for someone one day, to explain that or sit in maybe on a room and listen to the various theologians, actually hash that out because I actually want them to be confronted publicly because I would love to hear their explanation or justification for their views of Christianity or their views of religion.
Well, we learned our beliefs from their activities. That's why we have so much hypocrisy in our churches. They are just hypocrites. And we've never seen anyone practice anything with a pure heart in our lives. Where would we have seen this? If white people are teaching us about religion and their way of Christianity, where would we ever experience people? First of all, there's nobody practicing anything pure anywhere. All of these religions have some dirty underbelly that's insane. But whatever, they, I don't know how they justify these things. I really don't. They literally have letter after letter after letter about who to enslave and who's not a real human. Even the woman who wrote Little House on the Prairie, that wasn't that long ago. She literally said in her book, there's no people over there, just Indians. They did not view them as people. That is why they just felt like, get out of the way.
Well, my first book, textbook I wrote at Lemoyne College of Education years ago. On page 44, I did some research on the slave trade, and I found some that blew me away. On page 44 of my book, I have a article that said um, the Portuguese, chapter 9. It says, "Am I a holy missionary, a slave trader, a pimp, or a gun salesman?" So, according to me, although the Portuguese came to the Congo to acquire slaves, they first portrayed themselves as holy men of God who traveled to the strange new land to spread the good word and save African souls. However, after sexually abusing helpless African women and girls, human trafficking, and double crossing the Congolese king Alfonso, the Portuguese got back on task and started to reacquire slaves. They acquired slaves any way that they could. Um, they would often enslave African royalty. A moral bottom was non-existent for this wretched group of men. In fact, they would often trade discarded firearms with the tribes people for slaves. According to Chancellor Williams, the missionary fathers, the war dogs of the Lord. That's what they call themselves. Check this out. The missionaries, they call themselves war dogs of the Lord. And in parentheses, Dr. Williams says they were the Jesuits, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Were the most helpful is were most helpful as spearheads into the interior chiefdoms to form slave hunting alliances in exchange for discarded guns. Um, what I found out in my studies, and this is gonna piss a lot of you off, but you know what? You need to hear it. The Portuguese, um, Vasco da Gama, who's allegedly, I say allegedly with every European discovery, allegedly was the first. No, he wasn't the first. He was the first. He's the first European to circumnavigate the globe. But when Vasco da Gama circumnavigated the coast of Africa, he went back and in his reports he said that there were women who brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. He said there were women who actually bathed. They bathed. Apparently, European women didn't really bathe a lot back then, but he said they would walk around bare breasted and they bathed. So when this message got to the married men of Portugal, they went criminally insane and started leaving their women in droves to go see these African women, um, and to be part of the slave trade. That was their excuse to go. We need people to go catch slaves, you know.
And they did
Well,
have a
anyway,
lot of
these
African wives. Those Portuguese men and their children ended up over here, found in entire areas. They were free.
that makes sense to me because they're like, ooh, clean women, clean black women. Oh my god! But they went over there, and this is the real fucked up part. Their cover was missionary, so they were going to rape, kill, and steal and sell humans, but their cover was they went as men of the Lord. We There was a very ignorant king that nobody really talks about called Alfonso. Trying to find it in my book. If I can't find it in time, I'll just paraphrase it. Afonso was the king of the Congo, a big time king. And the Portuguese tricked him with that I'm a man of the Lord stuff. And Afonso lowered his guard and let them into his inner sanctum. By the time Afonso figured out that these aren't really men of God, these are raping psychopaths, uh, Afonso got overthrown. So why would a king, a leader of such magnitude, be fooled by that? What am I missing?
I don't know.
Like I guess the those pastors like what's his name the guy Creflo Dollar does the same thing. The Lord sent me. Give me all your money.
They all say that.
Hey, I might be in the wrong business.
I mean, unfortunately, there's just a lot of sheep or people that I don't know what they're saying to people. Maybe they're putting a spell on them or something.
Hey,
It's got to be
hey, can I
something.
say something to Andy? She
Oh,
was
go ahead,
asking a
bro.
question about why we feel things more spiritually than other people. I think that's what she was speaking on. The reason is that we are the chosen people, and the chosen people do things better than other folks. They understand things more spiritually than other people. They uh, they accomplish things more so than other people. So going back to that, it's all spiritual. I don't know if you believe that or not, but if you believe in God and who God is, and He chose us as the chosen people, and there is evidence to support that, that would explain everything. There is no reason to try and figure it out when God told you that you are the chosen people. Then God gonna give you a special anointing on all things. This is
Which
why
people did God choose?
God chose a group from the
Yes.
12 tribes of Judah.
Yep. Another Hebrew Israelite.
No, I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. No, I'm not that. I'm not
What did
that,
you
but I
just say?
do understand
We're not from the 12 tribes, so we're black Americans. Did God choose us?
the
Did
Black
he choose
Americans.
Africans?
The black
What group are you guys
it's,
talking
it's
about?
called 12 tribes. 12.
And some of them are
12.
Haitian and Argentinian and all that, aren't they?
Right, right.
And I have nothing to do with them because
No,
Argentinians
you
are
don't.
all a bunch of Italians. And you guys don't know what you're
They
talking about.
12 tribes, not one.
Well,
12.
Argentinians are not of African descent. They're Italian. They
They
don't have any
part
indigenous people over there.
they part black. They're not all
No,
black.
they're not. They're
Yes,
no
they are. If
black.
they do a DNA test, you'll
They're
see.
no black.
They are.
Argentinians
Yes,
are
they are.
not black.
Everybody in the world has some black
No,
in
they're
them.
not.
Yes, they do.
Argentinians are not black.
All people in the world,
Well,
everybody
okay, if you're
has
going to
some
do that,
form of black in their
there
DNA. Take a DNA
certainly,
test.
yeah,
It's a known fact. I can pull up the
they're
information and send it to you.
Europeans. They have a
I'll
little
send it to you.
bit. No, you're not sending me anything because I don't want garbage.
It's not
These
garbage.
people are
Every,
white. They're white.
even white
They're
people
white.
have some form of black
I'm
people in
not in a tribe with white
them.
people. Thank you very much.
And let me. Have
So,
you ever heard of
so
white
Mr.
people, black people passing for white? Have
They're
you ever
not
heard of that?
passing for black. They're
Have you ever heard of
Argentinian
that
white
though?
people. They are white.
I, I'm gonna ask PDS to provide his where's your textual evidence coming from? It's a double mute. So where's your evidence coming from?
Hold on, I don't know. I got to pull it back up. Hold on, let me pull it up. I'll post it.
Yes, some people quote the King James version of the Bible as textual evidence, and although there are very valuable stories in that book, it's not historical. Now, as a historian, I've tracked certain stories, like I said yesterday, come from other books that are more reliable, and they've been reinterpreted. But the King James was a slave trader and a murderer. King James had his mama killed. I don't know if y'all know that. And let me tell you why. King James was he didn't like girls, and I'm not judging anybody's lifestyle, but he had a partner, a male partner. And King James's mom, knowing that they needed a son to continue the royal lineage, urged him to marry a female. He did, but he never had sex with her. In fact, when King James took over what is now the United States of America, the East Coast, he named the state of Virginia after his wife in honor of her virginity. He named the whole state after not having sex with his wife. And guess what he named the city that his namesake, Jamestown. Y'all heard of the Jamestown Project? That's King James. Well, King James's mom confronted him again and said, well, allegedly she said something pejorative about his lifestyle. Then King James proceeded to have his mama killed, and he named a palace after his partner. His partner's name was Lord Buckingham. Y'all ever heard of Buckingham Palace? Well, King James rewrote the King James version of the Bible with little maxims in there to psychologically brainwash melanated people in order to control them. King James needed for uh, foundational Black Americans and Native Americans to support his business. He was in the tobacco business, and if you look at the map I put in the jumbotron earlier, it says the tobacco slate, the tobacco trade. He wanted to make cigarettes for his people, but he needed them to be made for free. So I'm saying that to say that that version of the Holy Bible was chopped up and manipulated, and it's not necessarily historically reliable. Now, when you talk about the 12 tribes of Judah,
I
there's a lot
pulled
of
them up.
evidence to what?
I pulled them up.
Oh, you got
I
it.
mean, I looked up the person who made up this thing, and he said he hit his head and came up with this. And I'm wondering, does
Wow.
this person know the actual ethnic makeup of this? Because a lot of people think they can just say, name any South American person and it's going to be someone that looks like another South American. Everybody is not like a Brazilian in South America. Okay. They're not all the same, but the person that made this list thinks they are because they don't know what they're talking about. Argentina is not black people. So this list has a bunch of people on it that are completely not related at all. I'm not Dominican. I'm not an Australian Aboriginal. Okay. What do they have to do with it? Look, they didn't come from the Levant region. Aboriginals didn't come from the Levant region. Let's get real. What are we talking about? They have nothing to do with that. They're the longest continuing culture in the world, and they've been in Australia, not in the Levant region. Now, they may have gone other places, but not the Levant region. Okay. I'm not a Haitian. I'm not a Panamanian or a Guatemalan. I'm not a Mexican. That's on the list. I'm not a North American Native American. I'm not, except for admixtures. I'm not a Venezuelan, or they're running around holding everybody hostage. I'm not an Argentinian. They're white. They have 2% indigenous DNA.
Yeah, aren't they the Nazis? Didn't the
Yeah, a
Nazis?
bunch of Italians are over there. A bunch of Germans went down there. They have
Hey, the National
even,
Library of Medicine. That's where you get the information from. National,
The National Library of Medicine is talking about the tribe of Judah.
no, they
they've
talking
also,
about race, genetics, and how closely
they're
we
not
are
talking
related.
about that. No,
And
we're
it
not
tells you
related
that
to any of these
there is
people.
no such thing as race. And it's telling you
Fijians, Tongans, Samoans, and Hawaiians are
that,
on this list. They also are not from the Levant region, which is their tale
okay,
of what they're talking about. It makes no sense. These people have nothing at all to do with what they're talking about. And they must
it's
look at
saying
this
that
list and think they're out of their
everybody in the
minds.
world is
Puerto
closely
Ricans,
related.
Puerto Ricans are the ones running around trying to get rid of microphone check and trying to block reparations.
That
No,
don't
you're
mean
not my brother. You
That
got
don't mean
nothing to do with me. Take
I
your
got
ass out of
cousins.
my face.
Everybody got cousins
Cubans
and
and
stuff that
shit
don't.
are on this
Talk your
list.
shit, Wani.
You
Cubans
got
on this
cousins that don't like
motherfucker.
you. You got people that don't like you. They still your people.
Okay, this is why I have the problems that I have.
I mean, just because you have, I can have the opinion that I have relatives that I would not want to talk to. I have relatives I
well,
wouldn't
well,
want
well,
to share a meal with, but they still
well
my
let's,
relatives.
before we go too deep in this, there is some evidence to show that the 12 tribes of Judah, uh, there's some evidence to show that that really is talking about celestial events, in the 12
But
tribes of
listen to
Judah.
what you just said. You said evidence and suggest. You didn't say a fact. That's not a fact.
Yeah.
When you say
Well,
suggest and you say
Can you show
evidence,
where
you're not saying
the
facts.
can you show me a map where Australians came from the Levant region along with the Fijians? I'd love to see any of that.
Well, you know what the Pangean was, right? When there
They
was a
weren't
supercontinent,
over.
there was one
Yeah, they
continent.
still weren't over there. Doesn't
When there was
matter whether it was
when there
all
was a
together.
supercontinent and a one
Doesn't
continent,
matter when it was all together. They still
when
were
it broke
nowhere near
apart,
it.
they didn't have to go nowhere. It just broke
How
apart.
would they? Why would they walk all the way over there?
They don't have to walk
Do
over there.
you know where Australia is?
Yes, I do.
Do you know how far it is from the Levant region?
Okay, so you don't know
Good
what
night. Good
you don't know
night.
what a Pangean is then.
It
You don't
doesn't
know.
matter.
You got a good memory. That's like 50 million years ago. What are you talking about Pangea
I
for?
Okay, so
mean,
the other
was
problem,
it real or
hold
not?
up. You need to be muted very badly.
That's a
yeah,
theory that goes
please stop
back
talking over her.
How old
millions
are Haitians?
and millions of
He's
years.
talking about millions of years ago, some Haitians did what? Haitians are 500 years old. They didn't do anything because they didn't exist.
Yeah. We got to be careful, and I know that I'm not infringing on anybody's religious beliefs. I don't have authority to do that,
I
but
know.
we
That's
got to
not
be
a
real
that's
careful.
not a religion.
Yeah, I know. You know my feelings, Wani. But I'm not gonna come in here. Not saying that you are, but I'm just saying we got to be careful about mixing uh, mythology with material facts. Like, um, we don't know. There's no evidence to show that and this is gonna open a can of worms. But well, how about this? I would ask anybody who brings up a situation like that to give me some textual evidence that proves that point other than the King James version of the Bible, which most people usually do in our rooms, like because I'm not going to even go over this again, but yeah, what I was saying is there's evidence to show that the when they're referring to the 12 tribes of Judah, that's really talking about the zodiac celestial events. But I'm not going to posit to be an expert on that. All right, what percentage of Africans sold
That's
slaves earlier?
blasphemy,
Uh,
Oh, man.
according to who, sir?
man. I follow my God, and
You
and
just
for you to
made
say
up a
that
bunch of
about
stuff.
no, I'm not,
These people don't even
because I
exist
have a
during
difference in
Pangea.
opinion that you
That's
have.
not a difference of opinion.
What
It's
you
not
mad for?
possible.
Calm
It's
down,
not a
calm
It's
down,
not
calm down.
possible.
It ain't. We ain't got
It's
to be
not
upset.
possible. Haitians did not exist. What you're
I'm
saying
not
is
gonna
not
let
possible.
them sit up here and yell. That's not my environment. And as far as blasphemy goes, put it in the jumbotron. I'm blasphemy
These
according to
are
what?
brand new groups. Most of these people, let's see the groups: Guyanese, Trinidadians, Jamaicans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, let's see, Brazilians, Argentinians, Venezuelans, Mexicans, Panamanians, Guatemalans, Haitians, and Dominicans are new groups. They have nothing to do with Pangea. Okay? So they didn't walk from anywhere, they didn't do anything anywhere, they didn't exist.
Yeah, and if again, if he says it's blasphemy according to the King James Bible, keep in mind that King James had his mama killed. So if King James said I'm a blasphemous, I don't give a flying
And
fuck.
he also wrote the demonic Bible. So what was he off into?
Real talk, ladies and gentlemen. Before King James wrote the Holy Bible, he wrote a book on demons and spells. Give me a moment while I post the book for you.
Well, he can't even have you want to have an intellectual conversation. We can't be doing these extreme, like Pangea. In India, the Jews in Cochin, they had a shipwreck. I guess it occurred during when they all had spread out, and they had a shipwreck. They lost all their holy books, but they just kept doing their culture. On Fridays, we do this. Saturdays, but there was no like religious context, and it was like this for like hundreds of years, however long they were they had merged into society. They're in the history of that area. Some of the people have prestigious positions in government, but there were remnants of that culture. And when they were found out by the those the the mainstream Jews that we know of, they went down there, and what they did was they followed the women. And then they saw, oh, they doing everything that we do. It was just no religious so they had reintroduced them to Torah. But what they did was they started to segregate their synagogues after they started to come down there. So, but they have a remnant of that culture. All those individuals that were named in what you read off, Lonnie, there's no remnants of that culture in their culture. So it's like, what are we talking about? We just speculating,
Right. And these
making it
people
up.
can't be a part of a lineage discussion because this is what that's their lineage. And they have all these suckers involved in it. And these people have nothing to do with what we're talking about. Not only is it completely false, none of those people come from the Levant region and they didn't exist. But they want to include them in our discussions and then get mad at me and message me, oh, you shouldn't go that hard on the Africans because, blah, blah. Oh, be quiet. I'm responding to what people are doing to me.
Good evening, y'all. I've been listening and doing my work too.
Hey,
One
Lori.
thing, hey, how you doing? One thing I think we have to be very careful, especially with Black Americans and what our culture is. I'm a religious person, and I live in the South, and I can just tell you that my experience with God is something that is totally personal. So we as Black Americans, we have to understand that's part of our culture. Some of Black Americans, especially in the South, really attend church every Sunday. So that is something that I think that in regards to our whole makeup, that there has to be room for us to understand, even though it may not be logical to you, or you want to have, evidence and, I agree with you, but there's something else that's going on here. Remember where we have come from, especially the people in the South, that we have a very strong, strong, strong belief in our religious background and practices. Now, every culture has that. So, what I'm saying is that we have to be very sensitive. Maybe we shouldn't even be talking about it because we need to be very sensitive and mindful that a lot of our elderly, older Black Americans have a strong belief in religion, very that they practice it every Sunday. The Black church is very important in the South. So one thing about me being Black American, I appreciate that history. And what I'm saying is that, you know, we have to be cognitive of that. And it may not be something because, that all of us agree on. I consider myself a very well educated person. But I do have a strong belief in the Lord, and that's how I was raised. So that does not mean that I can't listen to other concepts or anything like that. But I think we have to be mindful and be sensitive to people who may not be have the education and stuff that we all have or can look at the information that we have. But we have to be very cognitive of that and not be to the point where we alienate the majority of our culture. I mean, I went to church today.
That's the majority.
Well,
The
I mean,
majority are Hebrew Israelites.
oh no, I'm not saying that,
Oh,
but I'm
okay, good.
saying religion itself.
Because I remember we did a poll and they said only 1% wanted to be called Hebrew Israelites.
Oh no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the missionary Baptist church in the southern states with black people who go to church every Sunday. I don't think they believe that they're Israelites, but they have other beliefs. All I'm saying is that culturally, we have to really be kind of sensitive to what we believe. Some of us believe, and that I don't think it is even a good um, stance to even have a discussion. I'm trying to be as open as I can be about something like that in this forum, because I think that it causes people to feel some kind of way, and they're missing the whole point of where we're trying to go. So I think what they say, religion is not a good thing to really talk about because there's so much layers to that, and people's personal relationship. I mean, you can tell me all day about this, but I know what my personal relationship that I have and how I feel and where I have gotten to because of what I believe. So all I'm saying is that we just have to be very, very, very um, kind of sensitive to that, and so we can keep people engaged in the conversation, because you can say some things. All day people get offended, right? And that's how it is. Just living life, you be offended by stuff. But we don't want people to automatically just not even be open to even having a conversation because they've been offended by what somebody said about religion. So, I mean, we have to be very cognizant of that, of Black Americans that believe in a higher power.
Yeah, I hear you. I agree with everything, but the gentleman came in here bringing that, trying to, crowbar in his religious beliefs, and I do believe in Almighty God. But if you bring something up, as a scholar, I feel a duty to let you know. First, I ask you for a source, and then you bring up a source that's not reliable. It's my duty to let you know that particular source is not reliable. Now, I didn't say the Holy Bible wasn't reliable because I don't believe that, but I do know. I know that the King James version is not reliable. It was written with other
Well, don't even
intentions,
talk about the
and I
King
didn't, I
James.
didn't, I didn't break it. I didn't break it
Yeah.
down as
Well,
to
don't even talk
why. Well,
about the
I could
King
have went all
James
the way there, but I
version.
didn't.
There's all kind of types of versions of the Bible itself, right? So that's what I'm saying. I don't think we should, you know, go there about this. I think there's so much other stuff that we can talk about. I'm not trying to direct your room, but I was just listening, and like I always listen to y'all. I think I have great discussions. I mean, matter of fact, the information you give is so important because a lot of stuff that I haven't heard before, and I like to go listen to what you're saying and read up on it. But what I'm saying is that once you introduce something like this, especially if you have to, I know you're from the South, you're from Alabama, Black people in Alabama and Florida, they go to church. And all I'm saying is that before we turn these people off or make them feel some kind of way because of what's being said, because like you said, there's no evidence, but in somebody's heart, I don't have to have evidence. I'm sorry you need it, but I don't have to have evidence when I have a personal relationship with God.
But Doctor Lord, we're not talking about God. That's the thing.
Okay. Okay.
Nobody's disputing God. I was disputing
Oh, we
his.
talk about Pangea and the tribes of
Yeah,
Okay.
Israel
Well,
and the
okay.
yeah, yes,
connection.
Well,
yes.
then I'm sorry. I
Like, you
missed
see
it
how
then.
crazy that sounds?
I
He
missed
was
it
like, no, he was
then.
like, you ain't never heard of Pangea? I'm like, man, that's
What did
millions
I
of
miss
years
it? How
ago.
come I
What
said
the hell?
Yeah, you
I,
missed it. You missed it.
No, what
I
he was
called myself
Say,
Israel.
Professor, do me a
right.
favor. Go ahead and kick anybody off the stage who ain't been baptized. That's how we gonna deal with this. I'm just playing.
No, no.
But you know
Basically
what I'm
what he
saying.
was
Y'all know what I'm
basically
saying.
listen, basically what he was
No, I
saying.
hear you, Doc. Thank you, though.
Basically what he was saying was that we are part of these 12 tribes, which is false. And he's got these tribes, most of them in South America and the Caribbean, coming from the Levant region in the Middle East. And when I said they didn't come from there, Australians didn't come from there, and South Americans and Caribbeans didn't come from there. He said, well, there was a time when the whole earth was together. And I said, but those groups are not beside, I mean, the Australians are older, but these South American groups and all of these Western Hemisphere ethnicities did not exist during Pangea. They're 500 years old. So that's, the idea that some Haitians were in the Levant region when the earth was all together is ridiculous. There was no such thing as a Haitian. That didn't exist. It simply did not exist. So there are some, if he wants to believe that, I'm not agreeing to it. So he just needs to leave.
Yeah, he
That's
kept and
200 to 300 million years ago. What he was talking
Right.
about.
Dr. Lori, he kept going. See, one of when have you ever heard me cuss anybody out or I try my best not to use the mute. I don't even like using the mute button. You know what I'm saying? Because if I can't control my classroom, I don't need to be having these things. I have a different philosophy. But the one thing one of a couple things that is a pet peeve is when people come in here trying to superimpose their views without being able to back them up, or you see it a lot with the people coming in our rooms and then talking about a certain religious group. It's this certain religious group. They come with an agenda, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like he didn't come here to talk about the slave trade. He came here to talk about, you know, what he wanted to talk about.
I hear you. So this is one thing that I had wanted to kind of comment on too. Um, that there has, you were saying about science and stuff. Well, there has been some studies that have came out really recently, and they were saying that Black Americans now have in their DNA makeup PSD. I mean, being traumatized by actually what has happened to us, and that they're actually doing studies. There was actually a study that came out of University of Virginia that pinpointed that they saw that Black people, Black Americans, when it came to pain medication, that physicians were actually not giving them the pain medication that they needed. Things saying that, oh, if you're Black, you have a higher threshold of a pain tolerance. So they were saying that these physicians, basically who are white, were not prescribing, if you were Black and you had surgery, that there was a certain amount of pain medication that they would give you that would not even help you with your pain. So they were saying that, they were through all these studies. Now, University of Virginia did this, that they had started seeing that, our genetic makeup has been actually changing to cope with some of the societal and social things that has happened to us. And they're actually documenting that now about why these Black people were being treated as such, and that when you go to the doctor, you're not going to get the same medication that somebody else is going to get because of your makeup, your racial makeup.
Doc, Doc, I wish I knew you 5 years ago. That happened to me. My wife went to medical school at University of Rochester, and we were living in Rochester, New York. Gets freezing cold, and I got an abscess down to, oh my God, the pain I'm talking about already, right? So when my abscess tooth, it was in the back. When it subsided, and what I'm saying, when it was so messed up that the doc pulled it. I usually don't get my teeth pulled, but so I went to Aspen Dental, and it was an Asian doctor in there, And this lady pulled that damn tooth out my head, and it was a big crevice in my mouth, just spurting blood. And I'm like walking up. It was numb because she gave me lidocaine or whatever you call it, stuff, Novocaine. And I was like, okay, you're gonna give me something for pain, right? And she said, excuse me? I said, you're gonna give me something for pain, right? And she refused to give me anything for pain. Like just pulled a tooth out my head. So is that standard practice? Is that normal to yank a tooth out somebody's
Of
skull
course not.
and
The
not?
standard of care is that you're supposed to. Oh, now if you had an abscess, you're supposed to have been on a antibiotic, and then I prescribe two pain meds. I prescribe the NSAID, which is like ibuprofen, 800 milligrams, and I also will give you a narcotic, which is the Narco 325 milligrams. I give you like 8 of those, and then I'll give you like 15 of the ibuprofen. So that's the standard of care. That means that that was, but like I said, they did the study, and they found out that black people, when it came to pain threshold, they are viewed as, oh, we don't need any medication, because our pain, we can deal with the pain. And so they have found out why these physicians were doing this. But no, the standard of care, especially if you have an infection, you're supposed to get an antibiotic to clear the infection up, because just because the tooth was taken out does not mean that you don't have infection still in your body that needs to be cleared up. And then, of course, we give you, well, I know what I do. I give, two meds, and I ask you to piggyback it. Piggybacking means that I want to make sure that you have no pain, right? So I want you to take the ibuprofen like for the first 6 hours. And before those 6 hours up, I want you to go ahead and take the narcotic, which is the narco. Then you go back to the ibuprofen. So you piggyback it. And that means that you have no pain. Because when you get a tooth out, it's like something, taken out of your body, right? You're going to have some type of post operative pain. We know this. And then, of course, you need to follow the post-op instructions, because, if you don't follow the post-op instructions, which is such a trip to me, because I'm sitting right there with the patient and my assistant is there too. And I said, okay, we're going to go over post-op, what we want you to do. So I get up and leave. My assistant will go over it again and we give it written to you. But a lot of patients, they go home and they do nothing what you tell them to do. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to get what we call dry socket. That means that it's not going to heal, right? And dry socket is just what it means. It means there's no blood in there. That means your bone is just exposed. So that's going to hurt worse than when you had tooth in. So we always try to make sure that our patients get that post-operative instructions and the pain medication. So yeah, you're right. You should have got that from her.
And she like looked at me some type of way as if I was like,
Yeah, asking for
uh,
drugs.
yeah, like I was like, how dare you even? But I didn't. We moved
But
back
you're
to the
not even
south. I
the
wanted to sue her
but
ass.
but you're not even the racial makeup of people who abuse prescription drugs. You know who abuses
Facts,
prescription
yes.
drugs?
White
Are
women.
middle-aged white women. Middle-aged white women will ask you all day. They even know the drug, and they will ask you for it, and they ask you. Those are the people who you don't even fit that
Demographic.
personality. Yeah. So
But aren't
I
you
mean,
describing medical apartheid? Isn't that what we live under here?
I'm sorry. Say again.
I said, isn't Professor Allen
Yeah, yeah,
actually
that's what I was
describing
gonna say.
medical apartheid?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
well,
You know,
I don't know if I really
they
agree with
denied
that.
care. They tortured this man. But let's look at what happened. You tortured the man. You caused pain, pulling a tooth out with no type, and then you put his life at risk because an infection can get in your blood and go to your brain. Like people have died from abscess
Yeah,
tooth.
yeah,
So the fact that there was no type of care, that's the key word. There was no care. And then while he's in pain, after you have tortured this man and say, look, I need something to manage the pain. I used to work in pain management.
Hmm.
We didn't just give drugs to everybody, but there were people who needed to work they worked at the tire factory for 12 hours a day. They had to work through their pain. And but we had like massage therapists, B12 shots. It was a lot more going on. But this brother received no care and then tried to criminalize him and say, and just because he was desperate for relief, he acting like he desperate to get high. It's like,
Yeah,
no, he's
that's
in
why, because
pain.
I asked her once. I was like, okay. I looked at the thing, and I was like, oh, you're not gonna give me anything for pain. She said, excuse me, and I was like, you just took a tooth out of my head. I want some for
Hmm.
pain. And she's like, no, I don't give that here.
Hmm.
And I was like,
What?
ma'am, really, really, you just snatched a tooth out of my head. Can you write me a prescription? And she asked me to leave. It was like, I was like, oh, are you trying to pretend like I'm like a
Mhm.
drug seeking or some shit? I
Mhm.
really hate. That's one regret I have in my life. I hate that I let that
Yeah,
go.
let me ask you something. Was that recently, or was that in the last couple of years that this happened?
2018.
Okay, so that was when the opiate crisis started. So let me just tell you about that. The opiate crisis, and it is actually, you know, I say this all the time. When black people were on crack, they didn't really care, right? Well,
Nope.
now these majority people are strung out on opiates. So they had to blame it on somebody. So they blamed it on all the doctors. So the DEA, which is Drug Enforcement Agency, in which I have a DEA license to prescribe drugs, right? They jumped on all the doctors and say it was our fault that these people were strung out. So a lot of doctors now are very, very reluctant to prescribe narcotics because the DEA is on our back. They just required us to do what we call an 8 hour CE course on prescribing opiates. So they really kind of curtailed our practice. Whereas before that happened, I probably would give you more than 8. And now that we have an opiate crisis, I mean, I only give 8 because they police us so much that, they will put you in jail for prescribing. And that's why we recommend that patients, if you have a chronic pain, we recommend that you be under the auspices of a pain management doctor, because and we can't and if you have a contract with a pain management doctor, we don't violate that contract. You have to go to that doctor to get all your payments. So when you came into her office, she probably was under scrutiny about prescribing, is very scared to prescribe more than the typical opiate, but that is the standard of care. That means that if you had that done, that means she was supposed to have done that. But a lot of docs now are very apprehensive about prescribing opiates because of the DEA is on us real hard about making sure they can kind of curtailed our practice. I mean, they're kind of telling you, well, if you got this patient, you better make sure you document in that chart why you prescribing this medication, because you know what? We're gonna look at you to make sure you're not overdoing it. And the only reason why they're doing this is because
When they don't know anything about medicine.
exactly.
Well, we
So
can't
I'm
let
sure your
her,
wife
because
has
I
told
nearly
you.
got caught in a RICO behind
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure your wife has
I
told
nearly
you.
got caught in a RICO.
Yeah, I'm sure your wife has
But see,
told you, right?
sh- sh-
About.
she can't act like she's scared of over prescription of medicine when he doesn't have a history of being prescribed. She had his medical file.
Well, I mean,
See, I was working
wait a
for a
minute,
pain
wait a minute.
management
Let me
clinic,
just
and
say this. Let me just say this.
they'll come for over prescription of meds,
Let
but
me
he
just
didn't
say
get
this. You're
prescribed
over
anything.
talking me. Let me just say
Oh
this.
yeah,
I'm
he
sorry,
didn't mean
sister.
to. It's
You're
all
over
good.
I
talking
didn't.
me.
I'm sorry,
What I'm
sister.
trying to tell.
Go
Let's
ahead.
do one at a time. I know you're passionate. Go ahead,
What
Dr.
I'm
Lori.
trying to say. You over talking me. You don't know why that woman did what she did. I'm just giving you the scenario what is occurring now, and that most of my colleagues and my friends who are doctors very reluctant to prescribe opiates because of the atmosphere that we are faced with when it comes to the DEA. I'm just trying to give some context to that. You don't have to believe me. You can come up
How
with your
can
own
you?
theory, but I'm just
Okay.
trying to tell you with the people that I deal with and the friends that I'm friends with, and even my boss who's the MD, what they're reluctant to actually prescribe. Every month there's a report that comes out. I'm like the director. I have 7 docs that work for me. So every month I'm given by the PRN nurse a list of how much me and my docs have prescribed for the month when it comes to opiates. So they put us in this Excel sheet and they look at everything and they say, okay, who's the outliner? Who is prescribing more than what should be done? We are scrutinized every month within our system. So all I'm saying is I'm just giving some context to why that woman did what she did. We don't know. You don't know. You can just assume that she did what she did. But I'm just telling you what the atmosphere is and why sometimes we are reluctant. Not me, because I do what I have to do for my patients. I don't like any of my patients to be in pain. So, but you have to make sure that you document and you put in your charts why you think this person needs to have more than what your usual um thing may be. For example, if I do like a very difficult extraction, I just had one Thursday. I mean, I was able to I had to lay a flap and I had to remove bone so I could get that tooth out. So if I have to remove bone, that means that that patient's going to have a lot of post-operative pain. So I know that since I did that, I'm going to go ahead and give this woman here a little bit more pain medication, even though she may not need it, because I'm thinking in my head, oh, she's going to have more pain than usual. So, what I'm saying is, I don't know why she did what she did, but the standard of care, that means what we all say we're supposed to do, is that you're supposed to get that NSAID, professor, and you're supposed to get that narco. And it may just be like a few tabs. And then, of course, the NSAID, the ibuprofen, she can give you more than one refill on that. But that's how it's usually supposed to go.
Dr. Laura, I got a question. Once they finish speaking, I want to ask you something about talking about medicine and everything, but I'll wait my turn.
Go ahead, bad news. What were you saying, bro?
Oh yeah, and I appreciate your care, sister. And excuse me about earlier. I'm sorry about that. I was, he was the thing about the care that he received. See, I was nearly caught up in a RICO working for a pain management clinic, and what occurred was it's a subset of the DEA. It's like an office, and their entire the Senate ain't going. Their money comes from the forfeitures, basically. But instead of going after the big hospitals, they'll find somebody doing pain management, and they'll say over prescription. Like our doctor, sister, foundational Black American, she was going to all of the conferences on pain management. She had masseuses come in. She had, it were people who would ask for meds who wouldn't get it because, like, you're not the guy working at Bridgestone tires 12 days, 6 days a week, and got to work through your pain. It's pain management, not just get high to where you don't do nothing, but you can work through it. There was there would have been nothing wrong with her saying, look, I'm gonna give you a prescription for a few days. This stuff is strong, brother. And people do get hooked on it. But I'm gonna give you it'll 3 days. If you're still in pain, try some over-the-counter medicine, and if it's still, give us a call back, and we'll see what we can do. You come in for observation, and that would have. But to just deny him, and then because you wouldn't have did the old Asian lady like that who said that she was in pain. See, when these other people be doctoring on us, even though you don't have like reservations in your heart about different people, there because that's messed up. You pull a tooth and no, I ain't giving you nothing for the pain. This brother is a teacher. He has to speak. Who enjoys speaking in pain? How stressful. You don't even want to talk. Now he can't give the lesson. There were a number of variables there. When you got his medical file, You can see probably they know where you work. They know that an upstanding citizen. Like what's there had to be something else.
I'm black.
Well, I just, I didn't realize that was a thing. So now, before I get anything done, I'm going to ask, what kind of medication are you going to give me for this if I ever have anything done? Because I didn't know they were doing procedures on people. And then I haven't had that to happen. I
Yeah, it's
and
it's real prevalent. I
Mhm.
mean, they did a study on it, one, and they saw, oh my God, black people are not getting the medication that they're supposed to get. They don't give it to
No,
you.
I mean at the dentist. I know they
Hmm.
under prescribe, but I mean at the dentist. The dentist usually says, "I'm doing this, and here's your stuff. Adios." But that was weird. I can't imagine having oral surgery and being told get lost.
Yeah, and then Rochester was like -25. It's like one of the coldest places in the United
It
States, and that
is.
affects how your teeth feel. FDA law, what you got?
Dr. Lori, I was going to ask you. My father, he was became an amputee. They cut his legs off, and he had a some for some reason it wasn't closing up wherever they cut him at, and he was going to the doctor trying to get prescription pain meds and everything. Is it normal for the doctors to lower the dosage? Because this happened around that time, 2018, 2019. They didn't want to really prescribe him anything. And from that result of him not getting the pain pills or whatever, he still caught gangrene. So you know how bad that would be. And he died, but the woman would never increase it. Is that normal for a doctor? Because they was trying to say he was going to become addicted to it. But if as an amputee, I believe that you will always be in pain. So can you give me any closure on that?
Well, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm so sorry that happened to you and your family. But definitely, definitely, it was around that 2018. What they were trying to say is that they even have us taking courses, and I just took one, that is so much better for us to wean you off the narcotic. That means wean you off. That means that when you come, start getting you a lower and lower dosage and see how you are doing, because they were saying that you're always going to have pain, right? I just took this pain course recently to get my DEA license. They make us, it's mandatory now that we have to take 8 hours of continuing education. I took mine in Boston University. And what the whole thing was is that they want to get the patient to the point where they wean you off the strong, you know, narcotic like Percocets or oxycodone. They want to wean you off that to a lower dosage so they can get you down to a certain point, because they're saying you're always going to have pain, but they want to make sure that they can manage or that the pain can be managed to a certain point that's livable. They're not at the point anymore. And when they say, like morphine's the most strongest thing that you can have, right? They give people who have cancer, terminal cancer, that to make you're in what they call end of life much more manageable. But now they're teaching us or making us curtail our practice and saying that it's best for have a patient that's on chronic pain meds to get them to a certain point that's livable. So that's why they're kind of titrating you down to a certain point. We no longer give, and I know I know a lot of my colleagues are physicians. We don't give those 90 Percocets for 3 months. We don't give that no more. We have to get to, they're saying that we can't even do that anymore. People have chronic pain. They don't get that anymore unless you're on the pain management contract and you get so much, for. So yeah, they are getting you to a point where they're titrating or weaning you off the strong medication. They're saying that something else that can be given to you to help you with your management of your pain, but we're no longer saying that the pains are going to be gone. You always going to have some remnants of some pain that's going to be manageable for you, and that's the term, manageable, that you can live a a everyday life, right? So that's what they're teaching us now that we need to do, because they're saying that there were so many of these people that was just strung out on this pain medication. They couldn't even get up, and get up out the bed without it. And so they basically say we got to stop.
Why
And
haven't they invented any pain medication in 90,000 years?
I know, and morphine
Is it
is our
90,000 or 110,000? I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So they said morphine is our endpoint, and they trying to wean you off until you don't have that, because they're saying that in the long run it's going to be better for you because you're going to have some type of pain. It's like back pain, right? You're always going to have some type of pain. It may not be as extreme that you can't make it through the day. They want to make sure you can make it through the day, so they say it's manageable. And so that's where we are.
That's crazy. And but it's just so, man, we need to get together and get this reparations bill. I mean, our medical specialists like Dr. Lori, our physicians, our dentists, our attorneys, our scholars, our people working blue collar. We need to come together to get this reparations, because what Dr. Lori made me think about was the '90s, that crack epidemic. I remember, I'm an '80s baby, and I remember some of my first memories is Nancy Reagan saying, "Just say no." Fuck her for that.
Wasn't she
Just
on
say no.
drugs?
And it didn't work. That
I
whole
know.
campaign didn't work. But let me tell you what else that I
I
am
said no.
required to do, right? Since I have a controlled substance license and I have the DEA number in the state of Alabama, I am required to do what we call prescription monitoring. So that means that any patient that I have to actually go into this site to see where else you've been, because I got to make sure that you didn't go to another doctor and get what I'm about to give you. And they will penalize me for not knowing that. So I have to go in and check and see. And that's why it trips me out when people who are really abusing drugs. I said, I don't know why they think they smarter than the government. Every time you go into that pharmacy, there's a big supercomputer. When they put your name in, it pops up, and the pharmacist will know. And the pharmacist call me and say, Dr. Wilson, did you know that this patient just went over to this office yesterday and got 50 Percocets, and now you giving them 10 narcos? And I don't understand why patients don't think that people who are really trying to abuse these drugs, they make it bad for the people who are not knowing that these people know. They know it, and then they call me to tell me. And then it's like, do you still want to go ahead and prescribe this for this patient? And I say, of course, no. And I call the patient because I want the patient to know. I say, listen, whatever you're doing, you need to stop, because these people own to you. They already done called me. They own you, on to you. You don't want to be in these Alabama prison. I call them, tell them.
Any prison but an Alabama prison.
I can't tell. So what I'm saying is that always be cognizant of that as a patient. Wherever you go into the pharmacy, always go into the same pharmacy that you go get your meds. Go to the same one. Don't go to different ones, because that makes them quite, start thinking something suspicious of you, and that's a shame. But that's what they think. Go to the same pharmacist, and when you get your pain medication or whatever, get it from the same doctor, unless you have different doctors, because they think something funny is going on. And so, and like I said, when I prescribe, I have to go into what we call PMP, which is prescription monitoring program, and I put your name in, and then it pops up if you have went anywhere else and got pain medication. And if you haven't, then I'm like, okay, you're cool. And see, they monitor me when I do that. And they say, you know what? You haven't been using this, and you need to use this, or we're going to go ahead and sanction you, because you need to know, doc, who you prescribing for. And so,
Is there a profession left that you have your dignity. Like, I mean, I didn't
Nope.
know they fuck with dentists too.
Yes,
God damn.
everybody. They just everybody. It's not just me. It's everybody who has the ability to prescribe medication. They put you under that scrutiny because there's an opiate crisis. Remember, these people are dying, and like I said, they weren't concerned about the black people that was dying off crack.
No, that shit almost killed a really close
Yeah,
family member
yeah,
of
but
mine.
they are strung out on this opiate stuff. I mean, it's really bad. And guess where it is? All in the rural communities, rural part of the United States. These people are strung out on these drugs. And they, you know what? They saying it's our fault. The doctors, it's y'all fault. Y'all got these people strung out.
Well, y'all have nothing to do with fentanyl. It's coming from China. I got a friend that works for a government, the government. He says China is. He thinks that China is intentionally make either is A, China's intentionally making high dose fentanyl to kill us off, or B, the quality control of fentanyl production is so trifling that they don't know the magnitude of doses they're giving people. But I've heard one of my homeboys was a police officer. He patted somebody down and passed out. He got this motherfucker overdose from
How does
patting
that
somebody
work? I
down.
keep hearing that.
Yeah, if you got fentanyl and then you got car fentanyl. Now you look at heroin, what it takes to overdose, and they'll put it in a vial, and it'll be pretty, maybe an inch thick of product, whatever. You put in fentanyl, it's a few drops of that powder. If you put in car fentanyl, it's like a a molecule of it's like it's such a
Oh,
small
so it's a
amount,
different
but
type of fentanyl. It's a
yeah, they
different
got
form.
strong different versions. It's like you got bubblegum kush, and you got the cookies over here. You
Leave them
got the
cookies
indica
alone.
and the sativa.
Hey, but
you
real
know,
talk, real talk. Why
but the
would you wanna
response,
help me understand? Why would you even want to be around some shit that if you touch it, you gonna fall, gonna need to be revised?
I
Like
well, the people who
know.
created it were in a lab. But see, this is the issue with their response to the opioid crisis. Is they made a war on doctors. You said it was in the rural areas. Absolutely. They go after independent doctors. Now, the bad actors, it was easy to see they was bad actors. You a doctor with 200 pills in your suitcase. You got this person in on it, and you okay prosecute those individuals. But what they did was they made it where doctors were scared to manage the pain, like you said, for your everyday activities. You work at Bridgestone Tires. You gotta do a whole lot of bending and moving, and you gotta work through that pain. Um, but along with that, it was pain management. We had a massage therapist who would come through, B12 shots, making sure are you doing everything you need to do physically. It was a lot of counseling. I was working there because I was getting all their paperwork straight for their audit, making sure. Oh, you know what? You missed a signature right here. Going through all of the files. I was their insurance, audit person. But she was such a good doctor. Now, what happened was it was rated. When I say I dodged a RICO, it's only because I left the job because you got to have a long-standing relationship. Now, if they convict that doctor, it under RICO, racketeering, such and corrupt organizations, anybody who benefits from the nurse to the janitor and the Mr. Insurance Auditor check person like myself.
yeah,
All
Rico
those
statute.
who benefit from the RICO, who get paid, all you did was get your check, can be convicted as well.
Some needs to
Now,
be done
all
about
of their
Rico statutes.
funding
They're full of shit.
of this portion of the DEA who goes after this, the only funding they get comes from forfeitures. So you're going after these independent doctors. You're not at Vanderbilt or um, the General Hospital and all these other places. You're going after independent doctors because they're an easy target. And you're funding and getting your paycheck and funding the operation based on what you can take from them. So there's a thing about overprescription of medication. And even if you go and ask the DEA, well, what is it? You go to the highest level of the White House. What is overprescription of medication? What is it? How much? They can't tell you, and they won't tell you. They pick and choose. So if you're an independent black pain management doctor, you gotta really, even if you're doing it right, they can paint you wrong. So that
That's my
fear of
complaint.
doing that is, the response was a war on doctors. So there's credence to what Dr. Lori was saying about doctors being scared. I'm just saying in the way that she was being scared with you, and just you just pulled that tooth out and just like fuck it, like that was fucked up. You could she could have prescribed you three pills and said we'll work it out later.
But that's my complaint with this war on professionals is I've been to two different professional schools. I went to law school, then I went to graduate school of education. Like, to become a professional, like, that shit's hard as hell, and like, it's complicated. I can't even imagine like medical school and dental school, but it's more of the same. Like, what I'm saying is, you as a professional know exactly what you're doing and why the hell you're doing it. So stay the fuck out my business. Like, if I pretend I was a DMD or MD, I would know that there has to be certain instances where I prescribe more pain medication than other. That's my business. That ain't your business
Well, you know
in this
what? I
country.
would not. Yeah, it really is sad though, right? But I would definitely not be getting into any type of pain management as a doctor. I wouldn't do it because you're right. There's so much stuff that could happen to you by managing these patients, right? And I had a colleague of mine that actually got sent away to 30 years in prison for doing pain management. And I remember when I was coming to him as a patient. And what happened with him was he had three offices and his staff turned, when the feds come and do stuff to you, they've been looking at you for a minute, right? I think they were looking at him for like 2 years, and they would actually send patients to him and see what he was going to do. And I was telling him, I was like, because I was a patient of his, because he was weight loss. He did weight loss, and I was trying to lose weight. And so and he also did pain management. And when I would come to his office and I would see all these patients, and I was like, wow, And then he told me, black guy, and I hate so much for him. And I told him, I said, Doc, I don't think I in it because his office was overran. It was a whole bunch of white patients. And I said, Doc, I don't think I would get into that. And he was like, why? I said, because pain management, you get these patients in here and they come here all the time and you giving this medication. I said, I wouldn't get into it. He was like, well, I got a security guard. And I was like, I was like, you're gonna need more than that. They watched that man for 2 years. Okay. They watched him for 2 years and he opened up three practices. And see, that's what they do if you're doing really well and you black, right? They got his staff to turn federal evidence against him. And because he was paying them well, they testified against that man and they sent him away for 30 years.
They did that to a doctor. My auntie was a nurse practitioner before she died, and she had a friend. I don't know if you heard of Dr. Patrick Afedaba in Birmingham. Um, Patrick he may have been from the Caribbean or something, but he had a pain management clinic, and him and his wife like came from nothing, um, and they just built a really lucrative practice, and then he got this mansion in Greystone, and that's all it took. Somebody's like, why is he over here? But yeah, he went to jail for, and I think my aunt June told me it was questionable circumstances, just like kind of somebody hated on him. I think a lot
And
of reason why people fuck with doctors is because they jealous. I
Mhm.
think jealousy is a big part of
Yeah,
it.
and then and so I don't know what happened. I just hated so bad for him, and I was just like, wow. But I was trying to tell him, I was like, Dr. Scranage, you do not need to do this pain medication. I just wouldn't do it. And he was just like, well, I'm doing it. And he got caught up in it, and he got 30 years.
like he was doing something criminal. Just look at the response is a war on doctors, and they can pick and choose because, like I say, over prescription of pain medication, and for them, that's is typically what they'll do. They'll try to come in and turn your nurses and just have them doing YSL Woody shit. Oh yeah, they just be giving out drugs all the time, and that's enough for the RICO. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And just based on that, it ain't gotta be no proof.
Dr. Lord.
Now, if any of your clients took the, because I've also run like affordable housing buildings, where you got some of them old folks, they'll get out there and sell some of their pills. That's not on the doctor. That's on the person. They like, yeah, yeah, increase their benefits. Okay, that's
I went
that's
to
not
I
on the
went to
doctor.
church. I went to church with somebody like that in Birmingham, an old lady who had some condition, lupus or something, and they gave her dang, I can almost say the name of this pill. Nope, not hydrocodone, oxycontin, I think is it. And she would sell that shit at church.
Well, Professor,
No,
well,
that's
Absolutely,
Professor
they
crazy.
Allen,
even sell.
That's crazy.
They even sell the drug that you use. What's that drug that to take you off of methadone? They even sell methadone caplets on the street, and that's what you use to get. It's like you go from buying heroin on the street to going to the doctor to get. You know that they sell that, but is that really on? That's how y'all say. It's the reason why Ray Charles said, "No, I'm just gonna do it the hard way. I'm just." You know what I mean? Just because that's another drug that gets you hooked. But
Dr.
that's
Lorne, I
you know.
wanted to ask you a question since we've gotten so far off the topic, but I understand from your standpoint what you're talking about and why doctors would take the effort or make a great effort to protect themselves. I would like to refocus us on what I had spoken of earlier about a medical apartheid and the difference in the treatment that Black people receive as far as pain medication, because we know that if you don't adequately control pain, people don't heal well. There's this a huge lawsuit that the Black veterans have put out in several areas against the Veterans Administration, from lack of getting good benefits, but also our medical treatment. And that's the part that I wanted to address with Professor Allen when he was speaking about how he was treated by his dentist. I don't know if you all are following in there. Did you see the picture that I posted? I don't know if anyone has saw it, but go in there and I posted a picture of a horrible accident that my son went through. And he broke out a tooth, totally broke it out. So that means that nerve was exposed. And then he had a tooth that was half broken. And he did this in the summertime. This was last summer. And I actually had doctor after dentist tell me that he could be treated all the way up until when they had nothing, they made no emergency treatment for him because he's autistic and he's nonverbal. And I had a doctor look me in my face and tell me that he probably doesn't feel pain. And so I'm coming at it from yes, I was actually told that, like he's an animal. So I'm coming at it from a different aspect. of how we're not getting, equitable treatment. I don't blame you for, being very careful on how you give out pain medication. What I'm going by are the numerous studies that have gone out that our pain is not adequately managed and how that, hinders our healing. I happen to be a veteran as well, and I'm speaking from something. This is not, anecdotal. It's one of the reasons why I'm 100% approved because of something that they did and it was not treated. I want to tell you all something. I don't know if I've already told you this. I have an older son. He's 27 years old. And so during the COVID outbreak, uh, he went into work. Andrew, be quiet, please. He went into work and he told his coworkers that he wasn't, feeling all that hot that day. They went behind his back and contacted the CDC in California. They literally picked my son up off the street. They took him to, um, I guess you would say, a quarantine um, asylum. And he said, Mom, there was nobody in there but Mexicans and me. So he's half Mexican, okay? But he said, there's nobody in there but Mexicans and me. And he said, all those people were dying, Mama. And he said, the Asian doctor, when she would come in and check in on him, it looks like he told me, he said, it seemed like she was getting angry that I wasn't getting sicker. And I said, what? So I actually had a child. He was also a veteran who was kidnapped off the streets in California, the United States of America, placed in quarantine with people that they knew had a contagious disease. Um, and I don't know if if it was for experimentation. So he told me they kept drawing his blood every hour. They drew blood from him. Then actually, my child didn't get sick and die. And I'm thinking the only reason why he didn't is because he was half black. I'm not going to go into that. People can argue me down all they want to. But he was in there with a bunch of Mexicans, and he said they were carrying them out in body bags. So when I bring up medical apartheid, it's not that I'm trying to be hyperbolic or exaggerate. Um, the treatment that we get, I think if my little boy had been a dog, he would have gotten better treatment.
Well, I don't know if I told you this, Andy, but some of you know this already. I was a professor and administrator at a historically black college, and Congressman Steve Cohen, a Democrat in Memphis, um, created a multi-million dollar bill, bunch of money, to study the effects of COVID-19 and the vaccine and all that. And it was supposed to go to a professor at Rhodes College, which is a lily white school in Memphis. But there was a stipulation in the grant that said in order for this grant to execute, you need a minority serving institution. So I was the only historically black college in Memphis. So bam, I became an administrator, and I was over research. It was kind of like the X-Men. It was professors from each college. We came together and we were studying it. But I was the black dude, and a lot of people were not happy about that. Well, I can't say everything over the phone. Hopefully, some of us will meet in person, and I will blow your mind.
You, Professor X, you can say what you want to say.
No,
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 I prefer you
I don't
didn't.
want to
I
disappear.
want you to stay alive.
Um, yeah, I don't want to disappear. We talking about
Oh yeah, I just made a terrible X-Men reference. Sorry.
man. Yeah, we talking about big pharma money. I ain't saying that shit over the phone. But what I will say is when we were collecting data, I overheard one of the leader of the research study said, "Damn, what? The government's only concerned with the information on the black people." So yeah, um, they straight up studying us for some reason.
That's what I know. That's why I brought that story up. Because when I tell people that, I get a lot of people who want to argue with me about certain things. And you're also talking to a person who has participated in medical studies. I've actually participated in them trying to come up with a drug that would stem the effect of opiates in the body. And they wanted to also see how they could stem the effects of opiates in the body with alcohol. So they paid me a lot of money to drink vodka and take this medication to stem the effect. Yes, I used to participate. I used
Jeez.
to participate in medical studies.
Vodka and medication.
So it's not like I'm talking about something that I don't know. And also, when you
What year was it? Were they trying? That sounds like they were trying to kill you. I had a friend who got wasted off of some. I don't know if it was vodka, but maybe meant some Maker's Mark or something. When he's 15, and somebody passed him a Percocet,
Mhm.
and Tyler never woke up.
Okay, so they gave us vodka. I think with some of us they gave us the opioid and the vodka and the drug, and of course you had your group where some people just got the vodka and certain, it was all kinds of things. But what I'm telling you is the majority of the people who participate in medical studies in the United States of America are Black people, the majority
Yeah,
of
they're
them.
concerned about. I learned that during our study.
And the re-
They're real concerned with
and
us.
the reason why I did these studies, it wasn't altruistic. They pay you a lot of money. So I was making like 3,000, 5,000, 6,000, $7,000 at a pop. So I was trying to get, a little bag together. But like I said, I'm always the type of person who does a lot of observation. And I thought it was just odd, you know, all these Black people doing all these medical studies, but yet we can't be properly medically treated. So, it's just not adding up. They use us as guinea pigs, or they kill us medically from maltreatment or mistreatment. And then you have people who want to make, counter arguments, giving, like somewhat of maybe a humane or intelligent justification. I can no longer do that because I've experienced so much bad medical treatment. And unfortunately, I am the mother of what I have called the most horrific trifecta in the world. I have a Black male child who's handicapped. I actually witness day in and day out, every time I take him to the doctor, how I'm talked about, how I'm talked to, and how he's not treated. And it is so exhausting that they talk to my little boy and talk to me as if he's an animal. I keep trying to tell people if my child was a dog, he would get better medical treatment. Do you realize that? That's what I'm trying to convey. I have to
How
say
old
it
is your
very.
child? How
He's
old is your
20.
son?
He's 20 now.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. And he's 20 now, and he's autistic, right?
He's
Um,
autistic, he's nonverbal, and he's
he's not verbal.
developmentally delayed. And that's what we call retarded. So I don't want to make anybody offended on this phone
Mhm.
call, but I call him, he's retarded. That's the correct term to use. Okay.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I also treat special needs patients.
I'm sure you
Um,
do.
yeah, I do. At one point, when I was in private practice, the whole state used to send all the special needs patients to me. And the ones I couldn't treat in my office, I would do what we call joint complete oral rehab. We would take them to the hospital where I was on staff, and we would put them to sleep, and I would do their care while they were asleep.
Yes.
So I see.
Well, I,
Well,
I can tell
in
you one
my career,
thing. If you were within arm's length of me, I would kidnap you and have you help me
yeah.
write up a dental plan that I could take to another
Well, you
doctor. I
well,
spent
let
over
me just
thirty
say,
thousand dollars for him.
I understand. So let me just tell you who you need to see. So if he's 20 years old, you need to get in touch with a pedodontist because pedodontists have privileges at the hospital in which they do OR cases. I used to do OR cases in my career. I no longer do those anymore. But a pedodontist will actually take your child to the your son to the OR, and be able to put them to sleep, and they can do what we call the exam, the X-rays, cleaning. Because I used to do it all the time, X-rays, cleaning, any dental work that that they need. Now, let me just tell you this. Now, check your insurance. Okay, check the insurance that you
Okay.
have on your son, and see whether that your insurance will actually pay, since he is autistic, will pay for the anesthesia and for him to be treated in the hospital. But a pedodontist is a specialist that deals with kids and special needs patients. That means that you can get treated, your son treated through them. They will take him to the OR. What I usually do is that we do the pre-op first. And the pre-op
Okay.
is when you come to my office, or the pedodontist will do that too. You come to my office and we'll see whether we can treat you in the chair. And if we can't treat you in the chair, that's when I go ahead and send you to the hospital for them to do the with the labs and all that, and they'll be able to do that. And then we set what we call an OR date. That means when we can take them to the operating room and actually treat him there. That's what pedodontists do. They are specialists. They will be able to do that. Take him to the hospital and get him with the exam. What that means, a complete exam, check everything. X-ray so we can see, or radiographs, and then they can go ahead and do the treatment right there while he's asleep. Now, the anesthesiologist, so there's going to be three bills, right?
Yes, I
There's gonna
know.
be there's gonna be the bill from the surgeon, which is me, or the pedodontist. There's gonna be a bill from the anesthesiologist, right? Because they're
Yes.
gonna anesthetize them. And there's gonna
And they
be a
charge you by
bill
the
from the
hour.
hospital for having the rest. So that's three bills. So you
Yes.
need to contact the insurance and ask them whether they will go ahead and pay, and they will, as long as that specialist sends the information into them. They will pay for him to go to the hospital so he can be treated. Okay, so you need to
But
make
Dr.
sure
Lori,
that you're
I
not
could
stuck
not
with a
find
bill.
I could not find anyone who would treat him. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I
Okay, so
could
you don't
not.
have a pedodontist. I mean, okay, so where do you live?
I live in Irving, Texas.
All right, so do you have an inbox?
You know what?
Oh,
I just followed you because I was going to save
okay,
this conversation for later and ask you some serious questions.
okay,
Because
well,
right now I'm trying to save his
mhm.
implants. It looks like I'm gonna have to have them removed because he won't stop biting hard enough to loosen them up. And I really want to save them because if I can't save them, I'm gonna have to take out his two front teeth again. And I just don't
You're
want him
gonna
to be
take it out?
toothless. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, no, no,
I'm
no,
gonna have to
no,
go and have them taken out.
no, 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 no. I tell you what. Why don't you let me find a provider out there for you? Okay.
Okay,
I belong to
thank you
this
so
group.
much.
I belong to this group. It's called Sisters in Dentistry, and we are like 2,500 Black women dentists across the nation. So what I can usually do, I usually drop something in one of our chat, and I ask, is there any pedodontists in Texas or whatever where you there? And they usually get back with me, and I'll
Okay.
tell them about the case, and then I can give you their information. You can call them and talk to them. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. God bless you.
Yeah, yeah, there's a network of us that we all kind of know each other. And so it's real simple for me to go ahead and just drop a little thing in and ask, well, is there any, it's called Sisters in Dentistry. Sisters is Sisth. As Sisters in Dentistry is all Black women, and we kind of formed a little network. So if we need anything, or we need a patient to be seen, whatever, and we can usually kind of drop that in a chat, whatever, and then someone will respond. And then once I get that response and the number, you can call them and talk to them yourself. But I just wanted to make sure I talk you through what you're gonna have to do now, okay? Because there's three bills coming your way, and so you
Right.
need to make sure that you get the funding, or you get go ahead and check with your insurance before you so you don't be surprised of what's gonna happen. Okay.
Yes, I understand because I'm the one who
Yes.
pays the bills. So
Yes,
I can't
ma'am.
count on
And I
his
just
charge
hate.
for that.
Yeah,
It's
and
me
and I
paying it.
that I hate that you're having a problem because it's access to care that we've been trying to address a lot, access to care and disparities that occur when you are a minority or you are at a different type of social economical bracket that we've been
Yes,
trying to address in the field of dentistry for years, and you just
I
happen to talk
understand.
to the right person.
That's true. I definitely understand what you're saying. Thank you so much. I wanted to just talk to you about that because this
Okay,
is
no
something that's
problem.
just weighing heavily on my mind because he's not due to have the teeth removed until September. And I'm just thinking to myself, if there's any way I could save his teeth so he can have, front teeth. But if it's not possible, I'm not going to be crazy about it, because he keeps
Mhm,
loosening them up. And
mhm.
it's just thousands and thousands of dollars for me to take him to get, anesthetized, get them tightened back up, and different things like that. I've spent about
Yeah,
$30,000 over the last year on his teeth, and I just can't, afford that anymore. So,
yeah, understand. And I understand your plight too about having a special needs child, especially when you're trying to get a health professional to understand what you're going through, and it's a special type a health provider that is really good at treating special needs patients. So you got to
yes,
find that provider that will take the time to treat patients like that because there's not a lot of us that do that because
I
a
know
lot
it's
of
not.
colleagues don't have the time or they don't have the patience. So when you
Right.
find a provider that does that, you need to stick with them because they're going to be the ones to help you, and then you see that they have a niche because I had a niche for it, especially in my private practice. I had a niche for dealing with, patients like that because I took time. Took time. You have to take time and care about these people, and then, I always tell people all the time that, if you're getting into this profession for money, that's not should be your sole purpose in life, right? You should be getting to treating sick people because this is something that you've been called to do, and the money's gonna come. I tell young doctors that the money's gonna come, but you have to be able to find your passion and making sure you take care of the people that God puts you in touch with, right? You gotta take care of everybody like that's your mama and daddy. And that's how I treat all my patients. Like they're my people. And I take care of them. But let me just say this because I gotta go. But and I'm gonna follow you and I'll give you the information. Well, I want people to understand that when you're dealing with any type of medicine or dentistry, you need to have an advocate. You need to have an advocate that's going to go with you to your appointment, is going to sit up there and make sure you understand the information that's been given to you, and that you're going to make sure that person's going to make sure that you get what you're supposed to get. Because there's a lot of people out here that just don't care, right? So you got to have somebody that's going to be up in the room with you and is going to ask those questions and going to listen to what the doctor is saying, so and can tell it back to you. So you have to have an advocate. And I would all my doctors, I would make sure they was black if I could, because you
You
know
know
what,
what?
black
Facts.
I'm so glad. I'm
because
so
black
glad you
people
said that.
gonna take
I have
time
been
with you, right? i
I
i,
have
I
been
have had
posting that
patients.
for months
Yeah,
about that every black person that I come in contact with on Twitter. I have sent out, I think about 5 different posts that you need a medical advocate and you need a medical partner, someone you can trust to share your medical records with,
mhm.
and that you all need to be each other's backup for
Yeah,
medical events.
yeah, and that's gonna ask the right questions, right? Because what I always hate is when I get up from the chair and I go back to my office, and then the patient is asking my assistant all the questions. I'm in the room. Why don't you ask me? They wait till you get up. So what I'm saying is that you need to have in all your appointments, even with you yourself, have somebody that's going to advocate for you to make sure you get the best care that you're supposed to have, right? Because not everybody is going to be like me or some of my friends that practice is going to make sure that you are treated fairly and right, right? I have patients come in and I ask them, what is this drug that you're on for? They can't even tell me what they're on it for. So you mean you're taking this medication every day and you don't know what it's for? So I get right up and I go call that physician. I go call them. I say, listen, we got a mutual patient, and this patient's in my chair. And can you tell me what you're treating up this patient for? And they will tell me, and I go back to the patient. I said, look, I just talked to your doctor, and they just told me you on this for this. They were like, oh, well, doc, I didn't know what it was. I mean, you're taking the medication and you don't know what it is? So we as black people, we need to make sure we take care of our folks, especially our older folks and stuff. If they taking all this medication, y'all need to be asking what's for and why are they going and who they seeing, because it's so it disturbs me for somebody to be in my chair and they don't know why they taking this and they don't know how come they not getting better. And I'm just looking at them like, Lord, somebody needs to advocate for these patients. And it can't be me all day long. So I just want to make sure that, we all understand that. Speak up and ask these people, why you giving me this? And is it making me any better? And let them tell you why. And you should write it down, or you should have somebody there with you to write it down and say, look, we need to figure out, am I getting better or am I getting worse?
Right on, Dr. Lori. I'm gonna go ahead and we'll close the space in about 5 minutes. I really enjoyed y'all, but earlier you said you were mentioning genes being changed. I was thinking, but we kind of went off and started talking about important issues. But I wanted to make you aware of a study done at Harvard a while back, actually, um, where Harvard scientists went to the Amazon. Apparently, it was a bird in the Amazon that was defenseless and kept getting attacked and living below the canopy of the trees. And the bird one day just decided to fly up top, and there were no voila, there were no predators up there. So that bird lived up there for tens of thousands of years without a predator until one day a hawk or an eagle, a bird of prey, flew and saw it. So this hawk would fly into the sun and attack the hatchlings. I guess they taste better. But given the fact it flew into the sun when it was going to attack the hatchlings, the last thing their brothers and sisters would see is a shadow. It get dark. They know somebody's about to die. Well, Harvard wanted to check acoustic records like DNA. You bring up post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a very real thing. I've had that before, Andy. I'm sure you you had it too. But anyway, they took the eggs back to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and hatched them in a lab, and somebody put a light in front of the hatchling and put a piece of paper in front of the light and cast a shadow. And what did the hatchlings do? They freaked out. So the question then becomes, how did they know to freak out? And they've never been to the Amazon. What they proved is that your DNA does have record of trauma. So if that bird has that type of record of trauma, what type of trauma do we have? What type of trauma are we living with every day? Why is it when a police officer pulls up behind me, I get all nervous and I ain't never did nothing wrong? Like, but I'm a law-abiding citizen. Why am I nervous? It's in my DNA. This is the slave patrols. Is it records of the slave patrols running through my veins? But all of these reasons is why we need repair. You know.
I wholeheartedly agree with
Any?
you.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree. Well, y'all have a good night. Andy, I'll try to see if I can get the information for you, okay?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lori.
All right,
See you, Dr. Lori.
Professor. Hope you have a good. I know you off tomorrow, right? Or you got to go to work.
Nah, well, I got research to do, but I'm
I
off.
know. Well, have a good day off.
See ya. Yeah, I will. You
Okay.
too. All right. Any last words, ladies and gentlemen? We're gonna end the space. I enjoyed y'all today.
I want everyone to do well since this is Sunday and I'm in midst of my people. I love you. I want you to be happy, healthy, and wealthy. and spiritually taken care of. I hope that you look at your family and tell them that that you love them. And I just want you really to enjoy your time off.
Yes. Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all enjoy your day, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.